Part 110. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1091. Seeing that the opponent actually took action directly, and the huge metal flywheel was very fast. It was a weapon specially designed to restrain the flying boat. It was called the Jingtian wheel. The diameter of a Jingtian wheel was almost 10 meters. It looked a bit amazing. The opponent used such a weapon, actually afraid that he would run away. Xuanlongxing was shocked and angry. When had the flying boat of the Xuanlong family been treated like this before? Just when Xuanlongxing was about to take action, he discovered that the two huge shocking wheels that were blasting towards the flying boat, suddenly, it stopped in the air 10,000 meters away from the flying boat. A stalwart figure in black robes had already appeared there. He stretched out his hand gently, just like reaching for something from a bag. The two huge shaking wheels that came from the sky appeared in the man's hands and stopped steadily. Any temper? At the same time, Xiaopinggan's cold voice came to Xuanlongxing's ears, "You protect the other people on the flying boat, I will handle this matter." Hearing this voice, the anger that had just risen in Xuanlongxing's heart suddenly disappeared. He just glanced sympathetically at the guy who blocked the way, and felt a cruel pleasure in his heart. Those guys thought that the flying boat was on the way. As a demigod like themselves, they probably never dreamed that there was a terrifying god-level strongman sitting on this flying boat. The probability of a god-level strongman appearing on the flying boat was indeed too low. Long Chen has a cruel temper. Now that he has come out of the room and has taken action, he will never leave any way for the other party to survive. Xuanlong Ruofeng and Xuanlongzi also rushed to the deck at this time. Xuanlong Ruofeng looked at the battle in the sky in the distance, his face a little nervous. "Uncle Six. Young master has already taken action. I'm watching from outside the flying boat." "You return to the flying boat," Xuanlongxing said to the two of them seriously. Xuanlong Ruofeng and Xuanlongzi are not yet demigod level experts. They were able to fly into the air before just by relying on the magic weapons they carried. In a demigod level battle, beings below the demigod level could not even stand up to the onlookers. They are all in danger, so it is best to let them return to the flying boat. The flying boat has a protective formation and can provide strong protection, so that if something happens outside, it will be their own responsibility. When Xuanlong Ruofeng and Xuanlongzi heard what Xuanlongxing said, they could only return to the flying boat. "Boy, you have a lot of skills. Who are you? How dare you interfere in the affairs of the Ghost Demon chapter?" The demigod strongman of the Ghost Demon chapter who attacked Fei Zhou saw that the magic weapon he blasted was taken away. There was only a look of surprise on his face, but not much fear, and he flew over carelessly. "Don't think that you are some ancient god family, there are two demigods on the flying boat just coming here to fight. We ghosts and evil spirits are fighting. The leader of the group will be here soon. Our leader is already a second-level god. Hey, you know what you are doing. Let the flying boat land obediently. Everyone comes out for interrogation and waits to be punished. If you piss me off, I will kill you directly." When Xiaopinggan took action, there was not even a slight fluctuation in his aura, so the guy from the Ghost Demon Legion thought that he was just a demigod with some Taoism and didn't care at all. After all, the probability of randomly intercepting a flying boat and encountering a powerful god is almost the same as the probability of winning a jackpot by randomly buying a lottery ticket on the street. It is also similar to the probability of meeting a thief who randomly steals a person on the street. It's the same as the police chief. Cultivators who can advance to the level of demigods are already very rare, and they can be considered as a group standing in the pyramid, let alone the gods above demigods. In the view of the guy who took action, the second-level god of their Ghost Demon chapter was already the highest level existence he could come into contact with. "I've never heard of the Ghost Demon chapter." Xiaopinggan looked at the guy who was rushing towards him and shook his head slightly. There was still no trace of emotion on his face. He just looked at the man indifferently. with a cold and disdainful smile at the corner of his mouth. Just now he was still thinking of excuses for not taking action, but now, these guys actually came to the door on their own initiative. The leader of the Gisha chapter is a second-level god, which means that even if this war group is still alive, there are other god elders whose level does not exceed the level of the second-level god. In his eyes, such a war group can be destroyed with just one hand. I've heard of the 5 war groups in the Tianlang territory. Where did your ghost war group come from? Xiaopingan said, shaking his head with regret and sighing. It's been a long time since there is no blood. Will cats and dogs dare to intercept the Xuanhuan family's flying boat? Boy, you're looking for death. The guy who flew overheard Xiaopingan's words that he had no respect for their ghost evil group. He was furious, with a sinister look on his face, and punched Xiaopingan, using the received his own spiritual skills. In an instant, countless huge black ice cones appeared in the sky around Xiaopingan, blasting towards Xiaopingan from all directions. The power was extraordinary. In the eyes of the demigod cultivator, this punch had already sealed it. All Xiaopingan's retreats. Just when the ice pick hit, Xiaopingan's figure had already disappeared from the place. The guy who took action was shocked instantly, and the hair on his neck suddenly exploded, because he didn't actually see how Xiaopingan disappeared. In this way, in a battle, if you don't see the opponent's path and figure, it means that the opponent's cultivation level may far exceed yours. Just as the guy's expression changed and he wanted to retreat, Xiaopingan's figure had already appeared 2 meters behind him, almost within arm's reach. Xiaopingan still held the 2 huge shaking wheels in his hands. I want to run now, but it's too late. You. The guy turned his head sharply, and what he saw was Xiaopingan's cold eyes and a slightly cruel smile at the corner of his mouth. Xiaopingan didn't say anything nonsense, just the 2 Jingtian wheels in his hands were like 2 big symbols, one left and one right, fiercely closing together to attack. The power in Xiaopingan's body is too terrifying. There was a loud noise of boom, and the sky seemed to be exploded. Where the 2 huge shaking wheels came together, there was even a ball of huge blood-red lightning that pierced the void. In just an instant, the body of the guy from the Ghost Evil chapter who was flanked by the 2 Jingtian wheels was flattened and shattered. The forbidden armor and Jingtian wheel on his body were shattered at the same time. The Jingtian wheel could not withstand such power, and was directly turned into powder, and the taboo armor on that person also shattered into countless pieces. The flesh and blood body of the person who was flattened was turned into powder in the air by the lightning in the blink of an eye. Without even a scream, it was turned into ashes in the air. At the same time, some divine crystals and other things on that guy exploded out of the air and fell towards the ground. This blow shocked the entire battlefield in the sky. The powerful demigods who fought on the battlefield were all watching and listening in all directions. In fact, they were also paying attention to the situation here, but including the Ghost Evil group and Guardian Ruyi, none of the demigods in the city expected that a strong demigod could not survive a single move and was killed in the air on the spot, crushed into ashes. Some people couldn't even believe their eyes. Godly and powerful man. At least a powerful divine being of level 2 or above. He has the ability to kill a demigod with just one blow. All the strong demigods who were still fighting suddenly understood in their hearts. The demigods who were originally on the upper hand of the Gisha battle group were suddenly confused, and their attack rhythm was instantly disrupted. Damn it, these guys from the Gisha chapter are really poor and don't have anything good with them. No wonder they are so vicious and evil and come here to attack the city. Xiaopingan just glanced at the things falling from the sky and shook his head secretly. Those divine crystals were not worth collecting, lest he lose his identity. Now that they have already seen blood, there is nothing more to say. These garbage members of the Gisha chapter must die. Xiaopingan's figure disappeared from the place again, and in the next second, he appeared on the battlefield in the sky. Xiaoping'an appeared directly behind a strong demigod from the Ghost Demon chapter who wore a ghost mask on his face and was extremely strong with a huge guillotine in his hand. This guy was also the strongest of the Ghost Demon chapter on the battlefield. Strong demigod. The guy wearing the grimace mask had no time to run. In Xiaoping'an's eyes, his movements were as slow as a baby that had just learned to walk. Xiaoping'an's finger gently poked the taboo armor wearing the grimace mask. The next second, the taboo armor shattered. The man screamed, and his body was shattered into countless pieces. Under the golden flames it burned to ashes in the next second. At this time, the remaining demigods of the Geshe chapter finally reacted, and each one screamed strangely, trying to escape from the battlefield like a ghost crying or a wolf howling. Don't let them escape. The demigods who fought with them also saw the opportunity. They roared one by one and used all their spiritual skills to hold those guys back. Xiaoping'an's figure flashed in the void, with no trace that could be caught, just like the god of death coming to the battlefield. Every time Xiaoping'an appeared behind a strong demigod from the Ghost Demon chapter, he stretched out a finger and poked lightly, just like popping a bubble, instantly destroying the opponent's forbidden armor and body. Crushed completely into ash. In just a moment, Xiaoping'an had already harvested 8 demigods from the Ghost Demon chapter on this battlefield, and the situation on the entire battlefield was completely reversed. No, seeing Xiaoping'an appear behind him, a demigod from the Ghost Demon Legion who was flying desperately screamed in horror, wanting to use his divine skills, but unfortunately, Xiaoping'an his fingers had already poked his helmet. In the golden firelight, the head and body of this powerful demigod from the Ghost Demon chapter exploded into ashes. In the chaos, there were 2 strong demigods from the Geshe chapter who rushed out of the siege of several demigods. They used all their strength to fly towards the west. They had already flown tens of thousands of meters in the blink of an eye. Taking a picture, a giant hand covering the sky appeared in the sky on the way of the 2 demigods fleeing, like Mount Tai pressing down on the top. He took the picture directly. Amid the frightened counterattacks of the 2 powerful demigods, the giant hand fell down without any hindrance. With a violent roar, the 2 powerful demigods turned into ashes at the same time. The strong demigods guarding Ruyi City had just joined forces and killed the remaining 3 strong demigods from the Gigzu chapter. The situation on the entire sky battlefield was instantly cleared. This is the result of a powerful god joining the demigod fighting circle. Just like a fight between an adult and a child, the result is a completely one-sided massacre, with almost no resistance from one side. The situation on the demigod battlefield in the sky has changed, and the situation on the ground has also changed. The hundreds of thousands of cavalry and warriors wearing ghost masks have now begun to retreat, fleeing in all directions. A demigod covered in blood who was guarding Ruyi City flew towards Xiaoping'an and saluted Xiaoping'an in the sky, "Senior." Xiaoping'an just looked at him coldly and said expressionlessly, "Kill all the garbage first and then." As he spoke, Xiaoping'an waved his hand, and several objects appeared in several directions of Ruyi City on the ground. A huge summoning gate more than 100 meters high. Hundreds of thousands of warriors of the Immortal Legion transformed into storm cavalry have rushed out of the summoning gate. Thousands of horses are galloping, war spears are like a forest, and swords are like snow. They are like black. It poured out like a flood and swept across the earth. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1092. On the ground, the sound of killing shook the sky, and the roar of iron hooves shook the earth. The storm cavalry, the incarnation of the Immortal Legion, began to hunt down the cavalry and warriors wearing grimace masks, completely destroying them. Although the cavalry and warriors who were summoned wearing ghost face masks were also very strong, their combat power level was very different from the storm cavalry incarnated by the Immortal Legion. For those summoned objects with flesh and blood, the Legion is an unkillable monster on the battlefield. A warrior of the Immortal Legion can easily destroy 10 warriors of the same level as himself in a head-to-head battlefield. For the Immortal Legion, their appearance can change at any time according to Xiaoping's will, so there is no need to worry about being seen by people who have entered the Immortal Underground Palace. The more important point is that, like the Immortal Legion, unkillable metal puppet warriors can be created by some powerful machine puppet masters. At most, the number of liquid metal puppets created by other machine puppet masters cannot be as large as that of the Immortal Legion. Their combat effectiveness and ability to change are not as strong as the Immortal Legion. This has something to do with the personal abilities of the machine puppet masters. The mechanism puppet technique is one of Huan Longchan's strengths. No one would doubt that people like Huan Longchan are incapable of summoning a powerful machine puppet army. Xiaoping'an stood in the sky, calmly watching the black torrent on the ground surging silently, waving the spear and sword in his hand, constantly thrusting, slashing, chasing, and the cavalry and warriors wearing grimace masks killed, surrounded, and trampled them to pieces outside the city. Viewed from the air, such a battle scene will become extremely cold, like different color blocks swallowing and squeezing on the ground, leaving countless dark red spots. All deaths are just boring. The change in intensity between the numbers and the color blocks on the ground. In the past, Xiaoping'an would have found this kind of hundreds of thousands level legion battles exciting, but after seeing hundreds of millions of legions fighting against demigods and powerful gods in the eternal underground palace, looking at this after the battle, Xiaoping'an's mood became calm. This is the vision. However, Xiaoping'an was still a little dejected and sad in his heart, and he did not have half the joy of victory, because he saw that many ordinary people living in the city had died in the battle before he came, and those that burned and collapsed houses, faces covered with dust and blood, women and children lying on the corpses, crying and wailing, can be seen in every corner of the city, and there are also men holding the bodies of their children standing blankly among the ruins. The scene is even more heart-wrenching. This scene reminded Xiaoping'an of the scenes of space invasion experienced on the planet Wa. Such disasters were exactly the same. In this city, before he came, almost more than 100,000 people had been killed, especially the ghost demons. The strong demigods of the battle group did not care about the creatures on the ground and in the city when they took action in the sky, and even deliberately carried out destruction. The aftermath of the battle of the strong demigods fell into the city, hundreds, or even more. Thousands of square meters of ground will be in a mess, and those buildings and houses will be bulldozed by the shockwave like piles of sand on the beach. For those ordinary people, it is unbearable catastrophe and suffering in life. The strong demigods guarding the city began to cast spells, and black clouds accumulated in the sky of the city. It began to rain, extinguishing the burning buildings. The entire city lay in ruins, crying. Everywhere he sounded, he suddenly seemed gloomy and miserable. For some classes of creation, their perspective on ordinary people and cities on the ground may be like looking at ants and ant nests. They trample on the lives of ants and pour fire into the ant nests, which is not the least bit wrong. Moral and psychological barriers. Xiaoping'an sighed secretly in his heart, but his face was still calm and indifferent, making it impossible to see any emotional fluctuations. The cavalry and soldiers wearing grimace masks had been crushed by the Immortal Legion in less than an hour, and the Immortal Legion retreated. The sound of ringing gold sounded, and the scattered black torrent on the ground began to gather like flowing into a stream and into the sea, and returned to the summoning door. Only a small number of cavalry and warriors wearing grimace masks escaped into the surrounding mountains and forests like fish that slipped through the net. They could no longer affect anything. Moreover, there were a large number of summons of other demigods chasing them, so Xiaoping'an didn't have to worry. This is a battle to clean up the battlefield. The 9 strong demigods guarding the city were flying towards Xiaoping'an at this time. These 9 strong demigods, 7 men and 2 women, were all stained with blood and basically injured, which looked a bit tragic. Seeing the end of the battle group, the dragon star on the flying boat also flew over quickly. The 9 people who flew in saluted Xiaopingan at the same time. The flying dragon star, standing next to Xiaopingan, looked at Xiaopingan and became more awed. Just now, the dragon star was also observing the battle on the ground. He also saw that what Xiaopingan summoned could be the shape-changing metal puppets, but the ability of those metal puppets to be unkillable on the battlefield, made Huan Longxing take a slight breath of cold breath. I remember that when Huan Longxing came home last time, he didn't seem to be so powerful, and there were no unkillable metal puppets around him. Over the years, this master of the Huanlong family has been practicing in seclusion. I'm afraid he got another chance and became more and more advanced. It's unpredictable. I have met Senior. The 9 people spoke in unison, and then the strong demigod with the Chinese character face who was leading among them asked again, Senior, please forgive me for my poor eyesight. I've heard of it, but I don't know which master of the Huanlong family your senior is. The flying boat of the Huanlong family is still parked not far away. Although there are many ancient god blood families in the Linghuang secret realm, as long as there are people who are familiar with the various ancient god blood families in the Linghuang secret realm, it is not difficult to learn from the flying boat. It was recognized from the flag logo that this was the flying boat of the Huanlong family. This is the son of my Huanlong family, Huanlongchen. Huanlongxing took the initiative to answer the other party's question, with a hint of pride in his tone. But as soon as Huanlongxing said it, a look of awe and shock could be seen on the faces of several of the 9 demigods. Obviously those people should have heard of this name. The man's lips moved slightly to transmit the message. When the remaining people looked at Xiaopingan, their expressions had changed. This was the man's name, the shadow of the tree. Xiaopingan's face has always been indifferent. Although he saved people, he did not show more enthusiasm, just like a bystander. This is the style of Huanlongchan, which is cold and ruthless. If Senior Xuanlong hadn't taken action in person today, Ruyi City might not have been able to escape disaster, and I'm afraid we would have been in bad luck as well. Senior's action today is equivalent to saving us and the more than 2 million people in Ruyi City. This kindness is greatly appreciated by me. Xiao and the brothers of the Ruyi regiment have taken note of this, and there will be rewards in the future, the man with the Chinese character who spoke solemnly said to Xiaopingan. These people in front of him suddenly reminded Xiaopingan of the 9 sons of Yun Dao in the Immortal Sea. The small war group in front of him was probably similar to the 9 sons of Yun Dao and the others. It was just that he didn't know if this war group was as coincidental as there were only 9 people. Thinking of his former friends and looking at the people in front of him, Xiaopingan's face softened a little, but his tone was still cold. You don't need to thank me. These trash from the ghost fight group dare to attack me. They are seeking death. I just swept them away, just a few rubbish. Xiaopingan pointed to the ground again. What is the origin of this ghost evil group, and why does it attack your city? In recent months, all the powerful demons have appeared, and the situation in the Tianlang territory has been turbulent. I don't know the origin of this Galaxy chapter. They suddenly appeared near Ruyi Mountain half a month ago. As soon as they and our Ruyi chapter they contacted us and asked our Ruyi chapter to join them. We naturally sneered and refused to agree, because the members of this Gisha chapter are all notorious people. Their entire chapter is just a group of bandits formed temporarily, with no territory or city. He just wants to occupy our Ruyi city, Zhou Xiao explained. We have been on guard against them during this period. Unexpectedly, today they took advantage of the fact that the leader of our war group and several masters were out inspecting the dungeon. They suddenly sent troops to sneak attack us, and trap the leader of our war group and several masters in the underground city. The dungeon was unable to rush to the ground to help, so they almost succeeded. How many strong men are left in the Ghost Demon chapter? Reporting back to the seniors, in addition to those who were killed in Ruyi City today, there are 8 more members in the Gisha chapter. Among them, the leader of their war group is a second-level god. In addition, they also have a first-level god. Dear Elder, the remaining 6 are also demigods. Xiaopinggan smiled contemptuously, with a flash of evil in his eyes. I still have time today. You must know where the remaining members of the Gisha chapter are. I happen to have itchy hands right now. Please lead the way. The 9 strong demigods of the Ruyi chapter looked at each other and were all shocked. Today, when they encountered a strong man like Xuanhuan Chan, the situation had been completely reversed. The entrance to the underground city is in the mountains 800 kilometers away. We are about to go to the underground city to rescue. If Senior doesn't mind, I will go there with Senior. Let's go, Xiaopinggan waved directly and said, then glanced at Huanlongxing and said via voice transmission, you wait for me on the flying boat. I will come back as soon as I go to avoid future trouble. What else could Huanlongxing say? Naturally, he couldn't say a word and could only nod. The 9 demigods of Ruyi battle group left 3 seriously injured to guard Ruyi city to prevent another accident. The remaining 6 were all dispatched. Under the leadership of Zhou Xiao, Xiaopinggan flew towards the underground city they were talking about. The direction of the underground city was just northeast of Ruyi city. The underground world of the spiritual wilderness realm also has countless resources, treasures and races. The demons come from the underground world. After some strong humans enter the underground, they will also build cities in the underground world to collect resources. This underground city controlled by the Ruyi group, one is on the surface and the other is underground from Ruyi city, they are not too far apart. Flying on the road, Xiaopinggan saw that Zhou Xiao and others were flying a bit slowly. He waved his hand and took the 6 of them, doubling their speed instantly and flying towards the underground entrance hundreds of kilometers away. Entering the underground world from the entrance to the surface, you have to fly dozens of kilometers underground. After a few people entered the underground, not long after flying, Xiaopinggan saw a huge flashing array with red light that had blocked the space in front of it. Living. There were lightning and thunder in the huge array, and there were several people guarding outside the formation. They had no idea that Xiaopinggan had arrived with his men with murderous intent. An arrogant and cold voice echoed underground. Fei Ruyi, don't be disrespectful. If you surrender now, I can spare your life and let you serve as the elder of the Gisha chapter in the future. The future of our Gisha chapter will definitely exceed your imagination. If you don't surrender, when your Ruyi city is completely attacked by me, you will have no chance. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1093. The sound came from the formation. It was obvious that the people in the formation did not know that Ruyi city had undergone tremendous changes. Those who had attacked Ruyi city from the Ghost Demon Legion had been completely wiped out. Logically speaking, if there is a change in Ruyi city, the leader of the Gisha chapter should know about it. But at this moment, the members of the Gisha chapter here have no idea what happened in Ruyi city, so there is only one explanation. That's because Xiaopinggan acted too quickly. Among the demigods killed by the Gisha chapter in Ruyi city, those who carried communication equipment such as supersensory twin crystals were not the first ones killed by Xiaopinggan. One person is the second person. He was wiped out before he could issue a warning, so the situation in Ruyi city is still unknown here. You want me to surrender even though you are such low-spirited people. In my dreams, the Ruyi battle group would rather die than surrender. Following the voice in front, another voice came from the formation. This voice sounded like a female voice, which should be Fei Ruyi. Rumble. After the sound came out, the light and shadow in the formation trembled, and the violent roar echoed again. It was obvious that the battle inside the formation was very fierce, and the 4 demigod strongmen of the Ghost Demon group guarding outside the formation, At this time, they finally spotted Xiaoping'an and the others, who were flying like a meteor and were about to rush within 10,000 meters in front of the formation. Who is? A demigod from the ghostly evil group in the sky in front of Xiaoping'an, wearing a blood-red forbidden armor, suddenly shouted, and the weapon in his hand was already raised. By this time, Xiaoping'an had let go of Zhou Xiao and others. He activated his divine skills, and with just a flash of his body, he crossed the 10,000-meter void and appeared directly behind the powerful demigod who discovered them. Without a word of nonsense, directly punched out. Boom! Xiaoping'an's fist hit the body of the demigod strongman. The forbidden armor of the demigod strongman cracked, and the flesh and blood body was directly shattered into ashes, and was killed by Xiaoping'an's punch. The disparity in realm strength between the two sides was so great that the powerful demigod from the Gisha chapter couldn't even fight back. No, enemy attack. It was only at this time that the other three strong demigods from the Ghost Demon Legion shouted in panic when they saw their companions being killed. Death. Xiaoping'an punched again. After the transformation, the power of the Emperor's divine fist was combined with the secret method of the ancient God's Immortality Sutra, and turned into a mighty black dragon more than 100 meters long. With a roar, it appeared directly in the sky. Behind another demigod strongman from the Ghost Demon chapter 1,000 meters away, the black dragon opened its mouth and swallowed the demigod strongman directly. The body of the demigod strongman was already punched in the dragon's mouth. Grind hard. The secret method of fist strength that killed a strong demigod was still powerful. The body of the black dragon was flying and circling in the air, like a living creature, and it was directly attacking the strong demigod of the second ghost evil group nearby. He rushed over, and after passing through the mountain of flames, the divine skill that the demigod strongman displayed in panic, he once again tore the demigod strongman's body into pieces in the air with a loud roar. The black dragon disappeared in the air. The divine skill killed two demigods from the ghost demon group with one punch. This was the real gap in strength between the two sides, and Xiaoping'an had not fully tried his best. Xiaoping'an didn't stop for a moment, and dived into the light and shadow of the large array. Before leaving, he directly said to Zhou Xiao and others, "I'll leave the rest of the garbage to you." According to Xiaoping'an's temper, if there are no outsiders, he will not let go of any of the rubbish from the four ghost evil groups guarding outside the formation. After all, in his eyes, those rubbish are golden divine powers. The prison giant tower is the recycling bin for these garbage. A strong demigod can at least recycle 1 or 2 million points of divine power by the prison giant tower. However, if Zhou Xiao and others followed, they couldn't have no chance to perform meritorious deeds. Therefore, Xiaoping'an left one person for Zhou Xiao and others. He was also a strong demigod, 6 against 1. There was no way that the powerful demigod from the Ghost Demon chapter could escape. In fact, the last remaining demigod of the Ghost Demon chapter was not only unable to run away, but after he witnessed his two companions being killed by a punch from a sudden charge, that guy was like an ant. As if he had seen an anteater, he was scared to death, terrified, his hands and feet were weak, and his combat power could not be used at 80%. He wanted to run away without saying a word, but was suddenly killed by Zhou Shi, who was full of killing intent. Hao and 6 other people surrounded him. This formation is a bit interesting. It is a deformation of the mountain guarding formation. This formation uses the 5 thunders splitting the sky formation as the core, and then uses the double layer 18 golden locks chain formation as the extension, and is supplemented by the space Vientiane formation in the middle. The advanced formation can barely trap a second level god temporarily, but it is only temporary. If people are not sent into the formation here, the formation may be defeated by a second level god in less than 2 hours. The deity is shattered, but if a powerful person of comparable strength enters it to preside over the operation of the formation can play a powerful containment role and become a battlefield set up by the party that arranges the formation. Even a second-level deity wants to escape from the big formation is not that easy. With such thoughts flashing in Xiaoping'an's heart, he traveled easily through the outer space of the 18 Golden Locks chain formation and the space Vientiane formation, as if he were taking a leisurely stroll in a courtyard. In a moment, he arrived at the center of this formation. At the core. Although Huan Longchan is proficient in formations, he is not known for his expertise in formations. With Xiaoping'an's attainments in formations, he can completely defeat this formation outside the large formation, but this is a bit much. So he still tried his best to play the role of a dragon cicada and rushed into the formation first. As soon as Xiaoping'an entered the core of the formation, he saw that at the core of the formation, black clouds were overwhelming, lightning and thunder thundered, and countless blood-red lightnings crashed down in the void. In a space of tens of thousands of meters, a giant net and chains made of lightning formed, trapping a graceful woman wearing a light green taboo armor. That woman's aura was that of a second-level god. Needless to say, she should be Fei Ruyi, the leader of the Ruyi group. In the sky around Fei Ruyi, there are 4 figures standing, an old man with a sinister face who is also a second-level god, grinning ferociously, standing in the black clouds, his hands spread out, with countless blood-red runes flowing in his palm. The talisman culture turned into huge bloody sword blades, falling from the sky and slashing towards Fei Ruyi in the lightning net. Under Fei Ruyi, there was a man with a grimace mask on his face, holding a dark bottle. Inside the bottle, countless skulls came out of it, screaming in the air, and endlessly pounced on Fei Ruyi. As one wishes. Xiaoping'an knew from just one look at the aura of this man that he was a first-order god. This man should be the elder of the Geshe chapter, and the other evil old man with a second-order god should be a member of the Geshe chapter. Long. In the sky around Fei Ruyi, there were 2 powerful demigods from the Geshe chapter, such as tarsal maggots, flying around her, and from time to time they used spiritual attacks to disturb Fei Ruyi. Zhou Xiao said before that Fei Ruyi had brought several demigod masters from the Ruyi group to follow her to the dungeon, but in the scene in front of her, Fei Ruyi was the only one here. Xiaoping'an knew Fei Ruyi with just one look. The people they brought are probably in danger. As long as the leader of the Geshe chapter holds Fei Ruyi back, the First Order God Elders and the few remaining people from the Geshe chapter can easily bring Fei Ruyi. The people are dealt with, and finally an 8-on-1 situation is formed here. If he hadn't arrived, the Ghost Evil chapter would have had the upper hand on both battlefields this time, and Fei Ruyi, her Ruyi chapter and Ruyi city would have been destroyed. Fei Ruyi, who was surrounded by a large formation and 4 people, held a pair of gorgeous crescent-shaped scimitars. She danced the scimitars like a copper wall. As the scimitars were swung, light and shadow of dragons and phoenixes circled around her and shattered. The attacks on her looked extremely strenuous. Xiaoping'an came in so quietly that none of the 5 people at the core of the formation noticed that there was one more person in the formation. Fei Ruyi, as long as you surrender, I will not treat you badly. He, I still need a woman like you to continue my bloodline and build a family for me. In the future, once I become a god and become my woman, you will have countless benefits. The old man standing in the dark cloud said with a lewd smile. Shameless, I will definitely chop off your dog's head. Fei Ruyi shouted angrily. Do you want to say hello before taking action? Of course not. Kill the king first before killing the thief. Xiaoping'an took action in an instant, and the powerful spiritual skills and the secret method of the ancient god's immortal sutra were released in Xiaoping'an's hands in a flash of lightning. Standing in the dark clouds, the leader of the Ghost Demon chapter never dreamed that he would be attacked by a strong man at this time. Xiaoping'an's figure flashed directly behind the bad old man, pouring into his hands with powerful physical power exceeding the power of 360 giant dragons. The divine skills of the Emperor's divine fist burst out from his fists, directly a double peak hit the temples on both sides of the bad old man's head. At the same time, Xiaoping kicked hard from behind directly under the bad old man's legs. Under the influence of these terrifying forces, under the blow, Xiaoping also launched the spiritual skill of void confinement at the same time. Now, let alone the old man who was only a second-level god, even a third-level god standing here would not be able to withstand such a sneak attack by Xiaoping. Boom! The entire formation was shaking under Xiaoping's power, and the roar was like the grass beside the rails trembling when the train passed by. Under Xiaoping's fists, the head of the leader of the Ghost Demon chapter was like a watermelon under a hammer, completely shattered in one fell swoop. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1094. At the same time as his head was shattered, the bones and meridians of the leader of the Ghost Demon chapter were also shattered under Xiaoping's foot. His whole body emitted a series of roaring sounds like a mountain collapsing and steel cables breaking. Xiaoping's blow shocked the whole place, and everyone suddenly noticed the sudden change. The First Order God Elder of the Gigza chapter and the other two demigods looked over at the same time with huge changes in their expressions, completely unaware of this big change. When did another person appear in the formation, the rhythm of the siege on Feiruyi was instantly disrupted. Anyone else would have died 100 times, but the leader of the Ghost Demon chapter did not die immediately. The vitality of the body of the powerful god who was getting closer and closer to the god was too powerful. The Ghost Demon chapter, a series of protective water shields were instantly activated around the leader's mutilated body. The flesh and blood on the headless neck was squirming, the new head was growing rapidly, and the shattered bones and meridians were reconnecting. The whole person actually wanted to escape. However, his whole body has been locked in place by Xiaoping's void confinement, and he cannot escape at all. Moreover, he is already seriously injured, and his whole body's combat power has dropped to freezing point. Dai Xiaoping's face was cold, and his fists hit the Gisha chapter elder's back chest again, directly blasting the mutilated body to pieces, leaving only a glowing human-shaped blood. Tuan struggled in the void. A barb-like dragon tail tens of meters long stretched out from behind the taboo armor Xiaoping was wearing. The head of the dragon tail, like a sharp spear, instantly penetrated the humanoid blood mass for dozens of times. A wound, and then the blood mass was tightly bound and entangled like a chain, and then the black flames burned on the dragon's tail, and in an instant the remaining body of the elder of the Ghost Demon chapter was completely burned to ashes, and he could no longer die. A lot of things suddenly exploded from the body of the elder of the Ghost Demon chapter. Xiaoping just took a look at it, put away those things, and grabbed a crystal ball that flashed with electric light inside those things. This thing can control this formation. Seeing that the leader of the Gisha chapter was killed by Xiaoping, the elder of the Gisha chapter and the other two people in the formation didn't even think about it. They left Feiruyi and ran away, rushing towards the outside of the formation. At this time, even idiots know that a strong man who can kill a second-level god in the blink of an eye is definitely stronger than the second-level god and is not something they can compete with. However, how could Xiaoping, who had seized the control core of the formation, let them run away? Xiaoping just thought, and countless blood-red lightnings in the void of the formation crashed down, turning into a power grid, and the lightning chains instantly locked the elders of the Gisha chapter and two other demigods who wanted to escape in the thunder of the grid. This large formation, which was used to deal with Feiruyi just now, has become a weapon against the ghost evil group in the blink of an eye. This large formation can temporarily trap Feiruyi, who is a second-level god, and temporarily trap a first-level god. Xunhe and the two demigods are naturally no problem. Under this ebb and flow, Feiruyi, who had just been locked in the formation, suddenly regained her freedom and soared into the sky like a plum blossom breaking through the frost and snow. At this time, friends and foes were clearly visible. Feiruyi let out an angry shout and danced her swords. The two huge moon-shaped sword lights, with terrifying power, slashed directly at the elders of the Gigza group who were trapped in the formation. The status of both parties suddenly changed. Now was the time to harvest divine power, and Xiaoping'an was naturally not idle either. He punched out, and a black dragon transformed from his fist power appeared in the formation with a roar. In the blink of an eye, he killed the two people in the formation. The powerful demigods of the Ghost Demon Legion were devoured by the torment. On the other side, the mask on the face of the elder of the Gisha chapter who was locked by the formation and attacked by Fei Ruyi also fell off, revealing an old but cunning and frightened face. Then, that man's body like a punctured skin bag, it was divided into two halves. A black shadow suddenly emerged from the body with a chirp, turned into a bloody light, penetrated the electric light chain in the formation, and wanted to rush out. Big array. Demons. Xiaoping'an was slightly shocked when he saw the black shadow. The black shadow had horns on its head, scales on its body, blood-red eyes, and a ferocious face. It was a demon. Xiaoping'an's eyes narrowed and he punched out. The demon had just rushed out less than a kilometer when two roaring black dragons appeared in front of him with their teeth and claws. The black shadows roared and punched out with both fists, fighting hard. With one strike, he was blasted by two black dragons and his menstrual bone was broken. He vomited blood and flew back. The elder of the Ghost Demon chapter is a demon. He can change and hide his physical appearance, but his strength cannot be disguised. The high-ranking deity faced Xiaoping'an and was severely injured as soon as they fought. Fei Ruyi rushed over again, using the divine skill with the two swords in her hands, and slashed out again. The sword light suddenly turned into a. The bright moon, clear light, and stars all over the head reflected each other in the stern sword formation, and the demon clan that showed its prototype was involved in it. In the sword array, the lights and shadows of fairies appeared one by one with fluttering dresses. Those fairies flew around the moon in the sky with graceful postures. As they danced, petals from the flower baskets on their hands fell. The petals dropped by the fairies fell. When it fell on the demon, it left a bloody and horrific wound like a knife or an axe, causing the demon to scream and roar loudly. Just a few minutes later, the demon's flesh and blood melted away, completely buried in the sea of flowers, and a lot of divine crystals exploded. During the whole process, Xiaoping'an did not take action, but just watched. Fei Ruyi's divine skills in this sword array are really amazing. From the perspective of combat power, Fei Ruyi, as a second-level god, is far away from being a third-level god. Dear, I'm afraid it's not far away. After the demon was dealt with by Fei Ruyi put away her swords and flew directly to Xiaoping'an and saluted, "Thank you, Mr. Xuanhuan, for your help." Fei Ruyi looks to be in her 20s, with eyebrows like spring willows, powerful phoenix eyes, jade cheeks and cherry lips, skin that can be broken with a blow, and a bright flame pattern between her eyebrows. She is extremely beautiful and has an extraordinary temperament. When you get close, there is an orchid-like fragrance that comes with it, making people feel relaxed and happy as if they were in a garden. As soon as Fei Ruyi opened her mouth, Xiaoping'an knew that someone from the Ruyi fighting group outside had already contacted Fei Ruyi and explained some things. Otherwise, Fei Ruyi would not have known her identity. "You don't need to thank me, it's just the garbage from the Ghost Demon chapter that offends me," Xiaoping'an said lightly. This battle did not pose any challenge to Xiaoping'an. The whole process was completely crushing. It was just a coincidence, but the demon clan that appeared in the last Gisha chapter was a little bit beyond his expectation. The meaning behind this is worth pondering. Does Captain Fei know the origin of this Gisha chapter? There is actually a demon god mixed in. Fei Ruyi glanced at Xiaoping'an again, and also thought of some rumors about Xuanlong Chen. This genius of the Xuanlong family is really similar to the rumors. He treats others coldly, is ruthless, and has a bit of a weird temperament. However, this time, thanks to if not, the consequences for her and the Ruyi battle group would be disastrous. Fei Ruyi was originally an arrogant person, but facing Xiaoping'an, she couldn't be arrogant. She could only shake her head politely and said softly, If I knew the origin of this ghost evil group, I wouldn't be plotted by them today. Well, I feel that this ghost evil group should be coming for the space passage behind Ruyi City. As long as they occupy Ruyi City, they will also strangle the space passage behind Ruyi City, and the merchants and passengers who come and go will have to be subject to them. Xiaopingan nodded and said nothing. The situation is now a bit turbulent, with dragons and snakes rising and falling, and demons mixing in. The origin of this Gisha chapter is probably not that simple. I just don't know who this ghost fighter is. Some of them still had greater forces behind them. After just a moment's thought, Xiaopingan put away the formation discs of the large formation with a wave of his hand. The surroundings of the large formation suddenly revealed the appearance of the ground. Captain Wen Zhou Xiao and others saw Fei Ruyi, they quickly flew over, looking a little excited. The demigod of the Ghost Demon Legion that Xiaopingan left outside had been killed by them without any suspense. Where are Muziliang and Anping? Fei Ruyi said nothing, but shook her head slightly, with a somewhat sad look on her face. The eyes of Zhou Xiao and others turned red all of a sudden. Several brothers and friends who were close to each other in life and death, an accident today will separate us forever, and it will be uncomfortable for everyone. Xiaopingan also sighed in his heart. He deeply understood the emotion of losing his comrades and brothers. Gui Sha chapter, XXX, and I are at odds with you. A strong demigod from the Ruyi chapter roared in grief and anger. Captain, where are the other members of the Gigzu chapter? Zhou Xiao also asked with suppressed grief and anger. The leader and elders of the Gisha chapter have been killed by Mr. Xuanhuan and me in the big formation. Now there is no one else in the Gisha chapter. Let's go back to Ruyi City first. The origin of this Gisha chapter is unknown. As long as we track down the clues of the Gigzu chapter, we will never let them go. Fei Ruyi is worthy of being the leader of the Ruyi chapter. After explaining the situation clearly in a few words, he brought everyone together again. Everyone returned to Ruyi City first. The group of people returned to Ruyi City. Ruyi City still looked as bleak as it had just experienced the war. Xiaopingan had no intention of continuing to stay here. As soon as he returned to Ruyi City, he was ready to return to Fiazhu. At this moment, Ruyi City has just experienced a war. It is in a mess. It is not a place to entertain guests. I will not retain Mr. Xuanlong. Thanks to Mr. Xuanlong for saving me this time, whether he is intentional or not, this great kindness is in the memory of Ruyi Battle Group down, the mountains are high and the rivers are long, the Ruyi Battle Group will definitely be rewarded in the future. Fei Ruyi led everyone in the Ruyi Battle Group to send Xiaopingan off in the sky. These words were very solemn. Xiaopingan glanced at the faces of the people in the Ruyi chapter, and said heartbreaking words, this Ruyi City used to be smooth sailing, but in the future I'm afraid it won't be a place where we can settle down for a long time. If the Ghost Evil chapter is destroyed, there may still be a future. Other snobs come, you are lucky this time, if the other person comes next time. There are people like me among people, are you ready to do this for such a person? Are they all going to die in Yuchen? As I say, you should think about it carefully. After saying this, leaving a group of people in a daze, Xiaopingan returned to the flying boat, asked Xuanlongxing to start the flying boat, and left directly. On the flying boat, Xiaopingan didn't say much after he came back, and returned directly to his residence. The look on his face was slightly unconcealable excitement. In addition to earning a lot of divine power from this battle group, there is a major takeaway. Xiaopingan moved his hand, and a boundary bead appeared in his hand. Inside the boundary bead, black and white intertwined to form a rotating Tai Chi diagram. In the Tai Chi diagram, there were 3 golden words flashing, Zhang Daoling. Zhang Daoling is the founder of Taoism. The significance of this world bead is no less than that of the Holy Master world bead, because once the fusion of this world bead is completed, Xiaopingan's secret mandala can summon an extremely important person. Character, Mage. And the significance of the mage to the secret mandala is even more extraordinary. This world beat exploded from the body of the leader of the Ghost Demon chapter. It is the biggest gain of the strip. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1095. Xiaopingyan played with the Zhangdialing boundary bead in his hand, and then put it away again without feeling satisfied. At this moment, on the flying boat, there is a Huanlongxing who barely has some combat power next to him. It is really not the time to fuse the world pearl. If something happens to him on the flying boat during the fusion, it will be bad, and this world pearl it is definitely not easy to fuse. Before merging, you must be prepared. Don't be afraid of being late for a good meal. The gods under the dominant demon god have appeared in the secret realm of the spiritual wasteland, and there are more than one. The powerful gods of the demon clan have actually started to cause trouble everywhere and want to control the space passages in various parts of the spiritual wasteland. This is not a good sign. Xiaopingyan said softly to himself, although the turbulent situation in the Linghuang secret realm at the moment is related to him, the forces on the demon clan have been coveting the Linghuang secret realm for more than a day or two. Just like in Wuhua Pond, those who besieged him among them, many are the blood descendants of the ancient gods who have been attracted by the demons and have joined the demons. At best, they can be regarded as the fuse. The real source is the war between gods, the war between the two masters and the two forces, sweeping the universe. The world, in the Linghuang secret realm, has a tendency to gradually heat up. Such a general environment will affect everyone in the Linghuang secret realm. God. It's really an awe-inspiring word. I don't know when I will be able to advance to the 9th level of God, which is the lowest threshold for becoming a god. Xiaopingyan shook his head slightly, and then returned to the puppet workshop. The smelting furnace in the puppet workshop was smelting special metals that Xiaopingyan had mixed well. Some of the smelted metals were automatically released from the smelting furnace and then fixed. It was cooled into a standard metal processing part in the mold, and then put on the crawler assembly line, where it was further cut and imprinted with preliminary energy runes, and then it was grabbed by a metal arm and placed in front of Xiaopingyan's workbench. Xiaopingyan's workbench is a little messy at the moment. There are hundreds of metal objects of various shapes, large and small. Some of those metal objects are cubes, circles, rhomboses, triangles, etc. except for a few items that are the size of basketballs. The size of other items is at most the size of a fist. These things are the works that Xiaopingyan has processed in Fiashu's puppet workshop these days. In fact, they cannot be called works, they are just experimental things. These days, Xiaopingyan has seen a lot of strange things collected by the Xuanhuan family. I was inspired by the machining drawings of various weird metal puppets, and I was a little bit technical. I had a lot of time in the flying boat, so I couldn't help but want to make something. Xiaopingyan's goal is to create metal puppets similar to the Immortal Legion. The Immortal Legion's form that is both indestructible and can be combined at will gave him great inspiration. If he can create some kind of metal puppets, he can also give those metals the puppet's combat performance of changing and combining its body at will without fear of being destroyed would be interesting. The kind of liquid metal that makes up the Immortal Legion is too rare, and Xiaopingyan doesn't have much inventory on hand to make it on a large scale. It doesn't make much sense to make a few pieces at the moment, so Xiaopingyan is going to find another way to put the materials for making metal puppets in a solid place. Durable, can withstand various attacks, not easy to destroy, low cost, large in quantity and full of some raw materials. Over the past 20 days, Xiaopingyan has experimented with tens of thousands of super alloy formulas here. In the past 2 days, he finally found a super alloy formula that satisfied him. This super alloy is mainly composed of star iron, plus cloud boron, gold tungsten, purple titanium, mountain cobalt, and a small amount of solar iron fusion. The cost of the super alloy is only 30% more than that of star iron, but its performance is more than 10 times that of star iron. Other formula materials, except sun iron, can be obtained in large quantities. Xiaoping'an's secret mandala warehouse. These metal materials are piled up like mountains, and they are all trophies over the years. Although solar iron is precious, because the proportion in the alloy is too small, it can easily meet the needs. With the raw materials, the most critical thing left is actually the manufacturing idea. When it comes to being unable to be destroyed, liquid metal puppets like the Immortal Legion are certainly a good idea, but the conditions for realizing this idea are too harsh. The time cost and material cost required are too great to meet Xiaoping'an's needs. Therefore, Xiaoping'an changed another way of thinking, which cannot be destroyed. Another way of realization is to break it into parts and can be replaced at any time. One is everything, everything is one, simplicity defeats complexity, and quantity defeats quality. As soon as this idea changed, Xiaoping'an felt that his eyes were suddenly enlightened, and the design ideas and thoughts in his mind gradually took shape. The various strange-shaped metal objects on the workbench in front of him were the products of his previous failed experiments. As the number of experiments increased, Xiaoping'an's heart became clearer. The flying boat was still flying firmly towards Xuanhuan's house, and Xiaoping'an continued to be immersed in his own thoughts, busy at the workbench of the puppet workshop, forgetting to even rest and eat. All kinds of strange parts are constantly being manufactured in his hands. 7 or 8 days later, on this day, Xiaoping'an, who was in the puppet workshop, suddenly laughed happily. "Ha ha, it's done." Xiaoping'an, who was standing in front of the workbench, was smiling and looking at a small gadget floating on the bridge in front of him with a satisfied look. This gadget looked very inconspicuous, only about a fist high and taller than the thumb, is slightly thicker, and it looks like the base of two small four-sided pyramid-shaped objects fused together to form a conical octahedron with pointed ends. At this moment, there were thousands of metal objects of different shapes stacked on the workbench. With Xiaoping'an's wave of his hand, these thousands of metal objects of different shapes all flew to the smelting furnace and were reheated. The workbench it was suddenly cleared out and tidy again, and finally only this dark and inconspicuous cone-shaped octahedron was left. This little thing was floating quietly in front of Xiaoping'an's eyes, motionless. The way Xiaoping'an looked at this little thing was as if it was the first time he had created the chaos-locking immortal 10,000 techniques forbidden formation, which was full of things that could not be concealed. Sense of accomplishment. After all these days of hard work, I finally got it. Alas, I have forgotten to rest and sleep these days. Let's take a rest first. Xiaoping'an stretched, turned, and walked towards his room. Xiaoping'an, who came to the room, looked outside the porthole of the room. The sky was full of stars outside. It was already night. The airship was flying quickly on the continuous clouds. Through the clouds, he could faintly see the lights on the ground and the continuous city. It seems that this flying boat has entered a densely populated area. Even in the air, you can feel the rich spiritual energy gathering on the ground. In the distant sky, you can also see other flying boats cutting through the night sky. The surface of the Shenting domain where the Tianfang city of the Xuanlong family is located is one of the most densely populated and prosperous areas in the entire Linghuang secret realm. It should only be a few days away from the Tianfang city of the Xuanlong family. There are many places to visit along the way. Seeing the urban settlements, the smoke of this world is the most soothing thing for mortals. Xiaoping'an was looking at the stars in the sky, took a comfortable hot bath, took an immortality pill, and then went to have a good sleep. This sleep lasted until dawn the next day. After getting up, Xiaoping'an was full of energy. After washing up, changing clothes and eating a meal, he returned to the puppet workshop, which was once again clean and tidy. There was nothing on the workbench, only the black cone-shaped octahedron floating quietly in front of the workbench. With a thought in Xiaoping'an's mind, the black cone-shaped octahedron flew in front of him with a hiss, as fast as lightning, spinning around him quickly, like a pet meeting its owner. With the thought in Xiaopinggan's mind, Xiaopinggan worked. The robotic arm on the stage took out 3 brick-thick ordinary steel plates from the workshop at once. The small thing shot out like a bullet, directly punching a hole in the 3 steel plates. But the little thing was not damaged at all, not even a trace of wear and tear. This power may not be comparable to the most ordinary magic weapon, but it is actually enough for such a small metal puppet. Xiaopinggan nodded, stretched out his hand, and the small thing fell directly on his hand. He lay flat and stopped moving. Xiaopinggan put the black tapered octahedron back on the table of the workbench. Like an inconspicuous part. In the following days, Xiaopinggan continued to stay in the puppet workshop, immersed in manufacturing. The number of inconspicuous identical pitch-black cone-shaped octahedrons placed on the workbench increased, gradually numbering in the thousands. On this day, Xiaopinggan was writing and drawing on the workbench, designing a mechanical puppet production line to produce such small things. The doorbell of his room was finally rang. Ding dong. Xiaopinggan stopped for a moment and glanced towards the door. Are we there? It's so fast. Okay, let's open the door. As soon as he finished speaking, all the scattered conical octahedrons on the table flew up with a crash. Each conical octahedron was like a component. Thousands of conical octahedrons, like gravel, began to gather and shape in the air. Some were combined into the body, and some were combined into the hands, feet, and torso. In just the blink of an eye, a tall metal machine man with a head, hands, and feet appeared in front of Xiaopinggan, and then the puppet machine man moved flexibly. He walked directly to the door of the room outside the workshop and opened the door. Outside the door of the room, Huan Longxing, Huan Longzi, and Huan Long Ruofeng were all there. The one who rang the doorbell was Huan Longzi. When the door of the room opened, the 3 of them were surprised to see a puppet mechanism that they had never seen before. The person stood in front of them. This puppet machine seemed different from all the puppet machines they had seen. All the parts that made up this puppet machine were all tapered octahedrons that were slightly longer than fingers. They looked like children. It's something made of building blocks, but it doesn't look like it's crudely made. Moreover, this puppet machine has arms and legs and can actually move. If it were really made of building blocks, it wouldn't be so flexible. The 3 of them looked at each other, and the look in their eyes seemed to say that this weird puppet machine was probably something he had created these days. Come in. Xiaopinggan's voice finally came from inside. The 3 people then put away their surprised looks and walked into the room. As soon as the 3 people entered, the body of the puppet machine suddenly dispersed like gravel, and suddenly regrouped on the ground. He transformed into a strong black panther, then jumped forward and rushed towards the puppet workshop. In the blink of an eye, he ran in front of Xiaopinggan, rubbing against Xiaopinggan's trouser legs, as if he was acting coquettishly. This metal puppet can transform into different things. Huan Longxing took a deep look at the cone-shaped octahedrons that turned into black panthers, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. Xiaopinggan was still writing and drawing in front of the workbench, with his back to the 3 of them, without turning his head. Lines of light, shadow, and formation symbols flashed on the workbench from time to time. Huan Longxing stretched his neck, really wanting to see what Xiaopinggan was designing, but he didn't have the courage to actually walk over. Ahem, young master, Tianfang City has arrived. The clan leader and the elders of the family are welcoming the young master outside, Huan Longxing said. Okay, I get it. I didn't expect it to arrive so soon. Oh, it's almost done. Xiaopinggan waved his hand, and everything on the workbench disappeared, including the Black Panther. Then Xiaopinggan he turned around and said calmly, okay, let's go down. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1096. The sun was shining brightly outside, the sky was blue and cloudless, and it was a good weather. The flying boat was already hovering on the ground. When he walked to the door of the flying boat's ramp, Xiaopinggan saw the gorgeous red carpet spread under the flying boat's ramp. On both sides of the red carpet, there were many people greeting her, as well as the honor guard of the Xuanhuan family. Xiaopinggan's eyes swept across the people who greeted him. Although it was his first time with these people, those faces were already very familiar to him. The place where the flying boat is hovering is a square in the inner courtyard of the Xuanhuan family in Tianfang City. Tianfang City is the foundation of the Qianlong family. After countless generations of development by the Qianlong family, Tianfang City has become a magnificent urban gathering area with a history of more than 10,000 years and covering an area of more than 100,000 square kilometers. The natural population exceeds 200 million. There are more than a dozen cities of different sizes around Tianfang City and underground. These cities are also the property of the Xuanlong family. Standing on the flying boat and looking around, the site is full of various stone buildings and training towers that are full of age but also have a touch of luxury. The majestic atmosphere of the big family is blowing towards the face. The square in the inner courtyard of the Long family, where flying boats can hover, take off and land, is over 1,000 meters long and wide. The inner courtyard of the Xuanlong family is larger than 10 forbidden cities. At this time, Xuanlong Xing, Xuanlong Ruofeng and Xuanlong Zi were all following Xiaopinggan. The eyes of the people on both sides of the red carpet were all fixed on the ramp of the flying boat. The clan leaders, elders, heads of various halls, and heads of branches of the Xuanlong family all came, and the scene was very solemn. Standing at the front of the crowd, he was wearing a gorgeous purple robe, with silver hair like snow, dragon eyes hanging from his nose, and a hat shaped like a sky crown decorated with 9 dragons. He was the patriarch of the Qianlong family. Long Jinghong. Xuanlong Jinghong was extremely majestic, and the other members of the Xuanlong family stood respectfully behind him on both sides. At this moment, Xuanlong Jinghong was squinting his eyes slightly, raising his face. His sharp and unpredictable eyes passed through the distance of tens of meters, and met the eyes of Xiaopinggan, who walked out of the cabin door of the flying boat, and wiped out a trace of secret cremation. According to Mr. Jing, in the entire Xuanlong family, only Xuanlong Jinghong knew that he was an impostor, but he, the impostor, was a trump card of extraordinary significance to the Xuanlong family. There is someone to rely on, and he plays a role that is relied upon by the Xuanlong family. What he needs is the identity of Xuanlongchen, and what the Xuanlong family needs is the card of Xuanlongchen. From a perspective, this is a cooperation, where both parties are mutually beneficial and each gets what they need. And the most important thing is that Xuanlong Jinghong doesn't know that he is Xiaopinggan. He only knows that he is the person sent by the Lord of Heaven to solve the urgent needs of the Xuanlong family. Because Xuanlong Chan was unwilling to return to the Xuanlong family, and at this moment, the secret realm of the spiritual wilderness was turbulent, and the Xuanlong family urgently needed Xuanlong Chen to return and assume the position of family elder, so the ruler of heaven arranged for a person who could become Xuanlong Chen to come back. Supporting the facade of the Xuanlong family. Bang bang. Bang. As Xiaopinggan began to walk down the gangway, the 72 salutes of the Qianlong family's honor guard in the square began to roar, and red umbrella-like fireworks exploded in the sky, seeming to announce the genius of the Qianlong family. Return. The salute went off for a total of 21 times, and the sound shook the entire inner courtyard of the Xuanlong family. Xiaopinggan stepped off the flying boat and came to the welcoming crowd. Seeing Xiaopinggan walking down, Xuanlong Jinghong's eyes flashed with a strange color that was not easily detectable by ordinary people. He had been observing Xiaopinggan's every move just now, but what surprised him was that the person walking down in front of him, regardless of whether it was his demeanor, movements, or the aloof and indifferent aura that made people thousands of miles away, they were exactly the same as Xuanlong Chan. If he didn't use the secret induction method, he would hardly be able to tell whether this person was Xuanlong Chan or not. At least no one else in the Xuanlong family who greeted the fake Xuanlong Chan felt that the fake Xuanlong Chan in front of them was fake. "I've met Grandpa." Xiaoping'an spoke first, with a flat tone, not very enthusiastic. Grandpa is the name that Xuanlong Chan calls Xuanlong Jinghong. It hasn't changed since he was 12 years old. In Xuanlong's house among his peers, he is the only one who calls Xuanlong Jinghong the clan leader when his other grandchildren call him. Xuanlong Jinghong's face finally showed an eager and gratified smile. He patted Xiaoping'an's shoulder and laughed, "It's good to be back, it's good to be back. You've worked hard along the way. Didn't you encounter anything?" Seeing Xuanlong Jinghong laughed, the people behind Xuanlong Jinghong also put on real or fake smiles, and looked at Xiaoping'an with either flattery or pretended concern. The atmosphere suddenly became lively. "I didn't encounter any big obstacles along the way. I just encountered a ghost evil group in the Tianlang domain to block the space passage, and they wanted to attack the flying boat. Then I killed them casually and killed more than 10 demigods. And a second-level god leader among the Gisha war group, he also serves as the elder of the Gisha war group. The secret realm of Linghuang has entered a troubled time, and the Xuanlong family must prepare early." Just this sentence made many people from the Xuanlong family present tremble in their hearts, and the fake smiles on their faces became a little stiff. Demigod, that is the peak of cultivation that many cultivators dream of. This has already reached the creation level. Even in the Xuanlong family, if you can cultivate to the demigod realm, you can already take charge of the family and call the wind and rain, but the strong demigods, in the tone of Xuanlongchen, are as easy as ants. Me, not to mention the second-level gods, the gods of the entire Xuanlong family can be counted with one slap. There is such a change on the road. Xuanlong Jinghong frowned slightly, a little surprised, and his face became slightly serious, but soon, Xuanlong Jinghong's expression slowed down a little. "Now it is indeed, it's been a troubled time, so I called you back this time. I hope you can shoulder the burden of the family. I have prepared a reception banquet for you. There are many newly promoted outstanding disciples in the family who have never met you, and they all regard you as yours. As an idol, I am eager to see you. Your return this time will definitely boost the morale of our Xuanlong family. Wait a minute, there is one more thing I need to take care of here." Xiaoping'an nodded slightly, but his face revealed a cold air in the blink of an eye. His eyes swept across the faces in the crowd behind Xuanlong Jinghong. And then asked coldly, "Is the elder of Zhongren Hall here?" As soon as Xiaoping'an finished speaking, everyone's eyes suddenly fell on a man wearing a scarlet robe in the crowd. This man's name was Xuanlong, and he was the elder of the Xuanlong family's clan hall. Because he has reached the demigod realm. Seeing Xiaoping'an directly naming the elders of the Zhongren Hall here, Xuanlongza seemed to have thought of something. She glanced at Xiaoping'an anxiously, bit her lip lightly, and did not dare to speak. Being directly named by Xiaoping'an here, Xuanlong's face flashed with a hint of panic and surprise, but he still pretended to be calm and stood up, with a formulaic smile on his face. "Xuanlong has met the young master." Because Xuanlong Chan does not hold any position in the Xuanlong family, the entire Xuanlong family, including the elders of the family, only calls Xuanlong Chan the son. In recent years, the only young master who has been recognized by the whole family is one person. "Xuanlong, I remember that since I came to Xuanlong's house, you have always made things difficult for me. When my mother was still there, you deliberately sent me and my mother to live in a broken house outside the city, and you found various reasons. You defrauded us of our expenses. I was just 12 years old during the family competition. I defeated your 2 sons in the ring. One of them was seriously injured and I broke both hands. From then on, you see I am even more distasteful. You regard me as your enemy. Whenever you find an opportunity, you will make things difficult for me. You must be very disappointed when I come back this time, right? On this occasion, Xiaopingan said such cold words, the entire inner courtyard square of the Qianlong family felt as if a cold wind had blown through it. The joyful atmosphere that had just been created disappeared in an instant, and the surrounding area suddenly dropped. Smell. Seeing Xiaopingan's attack, everyone present felt surprised, but also felt it was natural, because this is the character of Huan Longchan. Huan Longchan has an eccentric personality, and his acting style is unpredictable, sharp, and direct. Huan Longchan cicada wants to attack people, but it will never take into account the occasion or other people's face. Huan Longjing's face was completely stiff at this time, and the fake smile on his face became embarrassed. He glanced at Huan Longjing, whose face darkened slightly, in shock, swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and pretended to be calm and said, "Why did the young master say this? I ask myself, as the elder of the clan hall, I have always tried my best to do things impartially and I have never thought of getting into trouble with the young master." "Oh, really?" Xiaopingan sneered, "in recent years, you have seen that there is no way to embarrass me, so you have begun to find ways to embarrass the people around me. Do you want to break up the marriage of Huan Longzi and forces Huan Longzi marrying an outsider? Is the marriage partner you are looking for Huan Longzi Mozian from the Mo family? Mozian is a famous loser of the Mo family. His cultivation is in a mess, but he has the 5 poisons of eating, drinking, prostitution, and gambling. My ancestral home was sold and squandered. Later, due to the fusion of the ancient god's blood treasure, I went crazy and became a cripple with a violent personality. Is this the man you found for Huan Longzi? You also said that this is not to make things difficult for me." People. When Huan Longzi heard this, she looked at Xiaopingan in surprise, her mouth slightly open. She had no idea how Xiaopingan knew this information. She had never told Xiaopingan about this information at all. In fact, Xiaopingan knew that this information was very simple, that is, he heard it from the chat between Huan Longxing and Huan Long Ruofeng when the god of fortune boy wandered around on the flying boat. Huan Longzhe's eyes suddenly became more panicked, but his face suddenly became more righteous. He glanced around and said loudly, "It is the family's need for the children of the Huan Long family to marry foreigners. If necessary, every child of the Qianlong family must obey the arrangements within the family. These are the rules set by the ancestors of the Qianlong family for the Qianlong family. No one is allowed to violate them. This is also the responsibility of our clan. Mozian will serve Mozian. We are direct descendants of the family, so why not? I don't know what the young master means by saying this. Is it wrong for me to think so hard about my family?" Although Huan Longzhe's voice was loud, it revealed a guilty conscience. There was no one present who was not a human spirit among human beings. In Huan Long's family, the relationship between Huan Longzi and Huan Longchen was no secret. Logically speaking, it would be okay for Longzhe to ask Huan Longzi to marry him. However, the marriage partner he found for Huan Longzi was too selective, which was a problem. Xiaopingan suddenly smiled, but the smile was very cold. The rules set by the ancestors of the Qianlong family cannot be violated. Okay, that's good, then I will use the rules set by the ancestors of the Qianlong family to talk to you today. It just so happens that today the patriarch of the family is also here. According to the rules set by the ancestors of the Huan Long family, I challenge Elder Huan Longzhe to a family competition as a younger disciple of the Huan Long family. I also ask Elder Huan Longzhe to prepare now. I want to challenge him. Did you take action? The younger disciples of the Qianlong family can challenge the elders of the family to a martial arts competition at any time, regardless of life or death. This is also a rule set by the ancestors of the Qianlong family. The original intention of this rule was to inspire the bravery of the younger disciples of the Qianlong family. The second purpose of the upward energy is to warn and encourage the elders in power in the family to improve their cultivation and not to be surpassed by the younger disciples. Although this rule exists in the Xuanhuan family, for countless years, almost no younger disciples of the family have dared to take the initiative to openly challenge the family elders. For the younger disciples of the Xuanhuan family, this kind of challenge is, firstly, a matter of cultivation. If you can't reach the level of cultivation of the elders, you are asking for trouble. Secondly, this kind of challenge is equivalent to ignoring the authority of the elders. It will be mixed with personal grudges. Unless you are an idiot, really no one will do such a thing. Everyone knows that Xuanlongchan comes back this time to take up the position of family elder. Now Xuanlongchan is stuck at this point in time. Before becoming the family elder, he challenges Xuanlong as a family disciple. According to the Xuanlong family's rules, as far as the rules are concerned, there's really nothing wrong with it. However, with Xuanlongchan's cultivation level, killing a demigod is like killing a chicken. If he challenges Xuanlong now, it will not cost Xuanlong's life -7. Xuanlong's face turned pale and was filled with fear. He glanced at the people around him and found that everyone was avoiding his gaze. He then looked at Xuanlong Jinghong, who had a gloomy face at the moment, and wanted to catch him. Holding on to the life-saving straw, the patriarch, "I have no respect for my elders. If you want to be here, insult me, please ask the patriarch to make the decision for me." Xuanlong Jinghong was extremely angry at this moment. It was okay for Xuanlong to be domineering in the clan hall. He could not ask every elder in the family to have an approachable face, but he did not expect that Xuanlong would dare to be so unscrupulous. For the sake of selfishness, he actually dared to ignore the overall interests of the family and rely on his status as an elder to target Xuanlongchan. This kind of thing made him intolerable. It is true that Xuanlongchan is extremely arrogant. It is unknown whether he is cold-hearted and does not want to return to the family because of this kind of thing. But in front of him, he is not allowed to be a good person anymore. Xuanlong Jinghong glanced at Xuanlong coldly. Xuanlong Jinghong's gaze even made Xuanlong shiver in his heart, and his face suddenly changed color. The rules set by the ancestors of the Xuanlong family are all it has deep meaning and no one can violate it, not even the elders of the Zongren Hall. Do you think you can override the rules of the Xuanlong family? Xuanlong Jinghong's words once again plunged the scene into terrifying silence. Among those standing next to Xuanlong, only Xiaopingan had a smile on his face when he heard these words. "Xuanlong, take action, seeing that you are the elder of the family, I can let you take action first." As soon as Xiaopingan said these words, those who were standing beside Xuanlong quickly backed away and distanced themselves from Xuanlong, so as not to harm the fish pond. The clan leader's intention was already obvious. No one dared to speak again at this moment. If you speak for Xuanlong, you are afraid of getting burned. This Xuanlong will go crazy, but it doesn't matter whether you are an elder or not. Xuanlong looked at Xiaopingan in horror, and then looked at the faces of the people next to him. He felt despair in his heart. Even among the demigods of the Xuanlong family, he was not the strongest. At most, he was only average. For an ordinary demigod like him to take action against a monster like Dragon Chan, who had already advanced to the third level of God many years ago, wouldn't he be seeking death? He would never be able to take a single move. Xuanlong slowly retreated, his eyes were shaking, he felt guilty, and emotions of panic and despair were pressing down on him like a mountain. Suddenly, Xuanlong screamed, but instead of attacking Xiaopingan, he turned around and flew up, actually wanted to run. "Trash!" Xiaopingan scolded with disdain. Xuanlong Jinghong's face was ashen, his fingers were trembling, and he could hardly help but clean up the door himself. It was so damn embarrassing. The dignified elder of the clan, in this kind of situation at that time, he actually wanted to escape. It was simply unforgivable. It would bring shame on the Qianlong family. This beast. No one present looked at how Xiaopinggan took action. They just saw the leaping dragon Zhe, who had just summoned the forbidden armor. There was a flash of light and shadow on his body, and the dragon Zhe screamed, and his whole body flew up in the air. The child was frozen, and then the taboo armor on his body was shattered. All the muscles, bones, and meridians of Xuanlong's body were shattered, and countless masses of plasma exploded. A big hand with flashing light and shadow appeared directly in the void, passing through Xuanlong's body. Amidst Xuanlong's earth-shattering screams, the big hand directly pulled out a more than 10 meters long red blood dragon with flashing blood from Xuanlong's body, and then continued. With a bang, Xuanlong was knocked to the ground, directly impacting a deep pit with a diameter of 7 or 8 meters on the ground. Although the Xuanlong in the deep pit is not dead, his body is like mud. He has been seriously injured. He has only one breath left and is slowly recovering. Moreover, what makes the onlookers even more horrified is that the one pulled out from the body of the Xuanlong, the red blood dragon, entangled by countless blood-red tadpole-shaped runes, continued to shrink in the air, and finally turned into a red thumb-sized crystal, which landed steadily on Xiaopinggan's hand. The bloodline divine root extraction technique in the ancient God's immortal sutras. Someone among the people watching around let out a slightly trembling cry. This bloodline divine root extraction technique is a terrifying secret method in the ancient God immortal sutra, and it is the iconic skill mastered by Xuanlong Chen. Back then, Xuanlong Chen had worked with other ancient God families in the Xuanlong family. This secret method was used in the battle, and it was powerful in all directions. This secret method can completely deprive a person of the ancient God's bloodline, and forcibly condense the ancient God's blood. For people with the ancient God's bloodline, this secret method is equivalent to directly abolishing that person's cultivation. Directly turned into medicine residue. Looking at the bloody and fleshy Belongzhe again, the demigod aura on his body is gradually dissipating. People with high cultivation level can even feel the aura of the secret mandala collapsing and shaking on Belongzhe's body. Even if Belongzhe's injuries can be healed, I am afraid that in this life, I will never be able to return to the level of demigod, and I will already be half a useless person. Xiaopinggan didn't even look at the demigod level ancient god's blood treasure in his hand. He threw the blood treasure directly in front of everyone and threw it to Xuanlongzi. Go on. Xuanlongzi subconsciously took the thing, and then realized that this thing didn't seem to be what he should take. Girl, this is the dowry I give you. You decide who you want to marry in the future. No one will force you, Xiaopinggan said coldly, then glanced at the people around him coldly, and asked domineeringly. He said, does anyone object? Looking at the half-dead dragon sting in the big pit, of course no one dared to object. Xuanlong Jinghong's voice sounded coldly at this time. Xuanlongzhe has insufficient virtue. From now on, he will no longer serve as the elder of the Xuanlong family's clan hall. Xuanlong Qi, now you will take over the clan hall. That trash in there, don't let me see him in Tianfang City again. Xuanlong Qi obeys. Among the crowd of onlookers, a silver-haired elder stood up tremblingly, saluted to Xuanlong Jinghong, and then looked at Xiaopinggan with some awe. Xuanlong Jinghong took a deep breath, then looked at Xiaopinggan, with a smile on his face, and asked calmly, can you go to the Fengfeng banquet now? Of course, Grandpa, please. Xiaopinggan smiled slightly, then walked gracefully and walked towards the distance with Xuanlong Jinghong. Xuanlongzi stood there, looking at Xiaopinggan's back as he walked away. For some reason, his nose suddenly became sore and his eyes suddenly turned red. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1097. The reception banquet prepared by the Xuanlong family was grand in scale, with tens of thousands of people attending, and many of the attendees were newly grown figures from the younger generation of the Xuanlong family. After Xiaopinggan and Xuanlong Jinghong entered the venue, the entire venue suddenly erupted in cheers like a mountain roar and a tsunami. Son! 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 Countless young people focused their eyes on Xiaopinggan and shouted the name of the young master. This scene was so lively, like a meeting between a superstar and his fans, that Xiaopinggan was shocked. It was just that the young people in the hall were more disciplined at this moment. He didn't expect that Guan Longchan was, so he hasn't returned to Tianfang City for many years, but he still has such a great influence on the younger generation of the Chanlong family. For the younger generation of the Huanlong family, the name Huanlongchen is their idol and spiritual sustenance. Almost every child of the Huanlong family has grown up listening to the legend of Huanlongchen. Huanlongchen, in a sense, it is the pride of the Huanlong family. Xuanhuan Jinghong smiled, nodded gently to the surroundings, took Xiaopinggan's arm, and as the grandfather and grandson, who were nominally related by blood, entered the main seat of the hall together in some symbolic gesture. Xiaopinggan glanced at Xuanhuan Jinghong, and a thought flashed through his mind. Perhaps this was the atmosphere he deliberately created. The purpose was to let everyone know that the talented and strong man from the Huanlong family had returned at this time. Arrive at Huanlong's house. For the real Huanlong Chan, he must be extremely disgusted by the scene before him. The real Huanlong Chan has experienced the cold-blooded, dark, and realistic snobbish side of this family, so he is dissatisfied with what this family is showing to him at this moment. Earnest care and flattery seem dismissive. For a person who has climbed out of the abyss on his own, there are too few things in this world that are worthy of his nostalgia. The blood of this family flows in his body, but this family has caused him to lose his closest relatives since he was a child. He has experienced the warmth and coldness of the world. Huanlong Chan hates this family from the bottom of his heart, but he cannot escape the fate brought by his blood. Such a contradiction and intertwining of imprints and responsibilities may be the fundamental reason why Huanlong Chan is truly willing to give up his identity, escape and leave Huanlong's family to start a new life. At the same time, he is willing to let others play him. At this moment, Xiaopinggan felt that he finally truly understood Huanlong Chan, and had an inexplicable resonance with this talented and strong man of the Huanlong family, just like a real actor integrating into his role. With this thought in mind, Xiaopinggan's face showed a smile inexplicably as he looked at this lively scene. In that smile, there were 2 points of compassion, 2 points of disdain, and a little bit of cynical teasing. His eyes, however, remained as calm as ever without any trace of enthusiasm. In the eyes of outsiders, this is the unique cold temperament of the young master of the Huanlong family. Looking at Xiaopinggan's smile and eyes, Xuanhuan Jinghong, who was next to him, was slightly shocked in his heart, and even felt a little dazed, because even he could no longer tell whether the person in front of him was really a fake by an outsider. It was still Huanlong Chan's prank, as some kind of revenge against the family. Huanlong Chan had mastered the secret method that could cut off the connection between the ancient god's blood and him, so he returned to Huanlong's house as a bystander. There is also the bloodline and divine root extraction technique in the ancient god's immortality sutra just now. This secret method is Huanlong Chan's unique skill. The ancient god's immortality sutra is extremely picky about those who can practice it. 10,000 people with ancient gods, even a strong demigod with divine bloodline, may not be able to practice the secret technique. Even if he is given the ancient god's immortality sutra, he may not be able to practice it. There is really a second person in this world who can also master it in a short period of time. Have you mastered this ancient god's immortal sutra? Xiaopinggan and Huanlong Chan came to the main seat of the main hall. There were 2 tables side by side. Huanlong Jinghong and Xiaopinggan sat at the table. The tables of other elders and others were on both sides. This was also declaring the status of Huanlong Chan in the Huanlong family. The person who presided over the reception banquet was the elder of the Huanlong family's reception hall, an old man with a refined temperament and thick black eyebrows. The elder of the reception hall had already prepared a wonderful speech. He first reviewed the Xuanhuan family's achievements in the past years. The various achievements achieved under the leadership of Hong Hong, and the significance of Huan Longchen's return to the Xuanhuan family this time were described in a colorful and touching manner. The young people of the Xuanhuan family in the hall were extremely excited. After laying the groundwork, the elder then asked Xuanlong Jinghong to say a few words. Xuanlong Jinghong stood up, looked around with a majestic look, and said in a deep voice, "From now on, Xuanlong Chen is the youngest elder of our Xuanlong family, and will be in charge of the Lingyuan Tang of the Xuanlong family." As soon as Xuanlong Jinghong finished speaking, the entire hall instantly boiled, and countless young people from the Xuanlong family began to shout excitedly. Among the halls of the Chanlong family, the most noble one is the Lingyuan Hall of the Chanlong family. This Lingyuan Tang is above all the halls and is the ancestral hall of the Chanlong family. The elder who sits in charge of the Lingyuan Hall is equivalent to the ancestral hall of the Chanlong family. A symbol of super strength and confidence. In recent years, because Xuanlong Chan has not served as the elder of the Xuanlong family, the outside world has various suspicions about the Xuanlong family. There are even rumors that Xuanlong Jinghong and Xuanlong Chen are at odds. And this once, with Xuanlong Chan returning as the family elder to take charge of Lingyuan Tang, the suspicions from the outside world could disappear. Xiaopinggan just listened expressionlessly. These were all expected and part of the deal. Although the elders of Lingyuan Tang held a high position in the Xuanlong family, they were more of a name only, a bit like the nuclear weapons of a great power. Library, to a certain extent, the significance of deterrence and symbolism is greater. In fact, the elders of Lingyuan Hall rarely have to worry about things, and they can move more freely. They will not be bound by the constraints of the Dragon King. It is best to practice and improve themselves. Being able to become a god, this is the greatest responsibility of the elder of Lingyuan Tang. He likes this very much and it coincides with his pursuit. In addition to himself, Lingyuan Tang of the Xuanlong family seems to have 2 or 3 elders who are at the level of old monsters hidden away. However, those elders have not shown up for hundreds of years. It is the secret of the Xuanlong family. What is going on, only the clan leader Xuanlong Jinghong knew. When the cheers in the hall subsided, Xuanlong Jinghong glanced at Xiaopinggan and said, "Now, would you like Elder Cicada to say a few words to everyone?" After saying this, Xuanlong Jinghong sat down. Becoming a family elder at this time, and on this occasion, everyone is looking forward to it, so it would be too inappropriate to say nothing. In full view of everyone, Xiaopinggan stood up. He glanced at the people in the hall and was silent for 2 seconds. "I am not yet invincible. Cultivation is my eternal pursuit. There are gods who have surpassed me in this world. There are still many strong people out there, not to mention that at this moment, gods are being born one after another, and signs of chaos in the spiritual desolate secret realm have appeared. Therefore, the Chanlong family will not be able to sit back and relax just because of my return. You must be clear about this, but, as long as you give me enough time, I am confident that I can become a god." After saying this, Xiaopinggan glanced at Xuanlong Jinghong and sat down. What he said just now was actually meant for Xuanlong Jinghong. He would not be manipulated or constrained by the Xuanlong family, nor could he give it to Xuanlong. What does the family guarantee? However, cooperation and mutual benefit are possible. His goal is to become stronger and become a god. As long as the Xuanlong family can help him, he will also cherish Xuanlong Chen's identity and will do it within his capabilities, using this identity to protect the interests of the Chanlong family. After Xiaopinggan finished speaking, the hall was quiet for a few seconds, and then thunderous applause burst out. To many people in the hall, this is the style of the young master, sharp and direct, never beating around the bush, and even sealing the gods say that he is so domineering and confident. This is the son of the Xuanlong family. Xuanlong Jinghong took a deep look at Xiaopinggan and raised his wine glass to Xiaopinggan, and Xiaopinggan also raised his wine glass. This reception banquet was very successful for many people in the Qianlong family, and it greatly encouraged and boosted the morale of the family. During the banquet, a group of elders from the Qianlong family frequently toasted to Xiaopinggan and built relationships with them, with brilliant and eager enthusiasm. With a smile on his face, he seemed to have forgotten the miserable look of Xuanhuan who was beaten into the pit by Xiaopinggan just now. After the banquet, Xuanhuan Jinghong and Xiaopinggan left first. After chasing away everyone, Xuanhuan Jinghong took Xiaopinggan to the secret room of his dormitory. Xuanhuan Jinghong looked at Xiaopinggan, his eyes a little complicated, he hesitated a little, and his tone seemed a little more warm and emotional. "Are you really not Chan'er?" Xiaopinggan blinked. "Clan chief, my identity at the moment is Xuanhuan Chan." Why did the clan chief say this? Hearing Xiaopinggan call him the clan leader, Xuanhuan Jinghong understood. He looked at Xiaopinggan's complex eyes and gradually became a little sad. Then he sighed and laughed at himself. "I understand, it's me who worries too much. Today, Cicada, I'm very happy to have my son back. I'm also very happy to come to Tianfang City. Can you tell me what level of cultivation you have reached now, so that I can have some confidence?" Xuanhuan Jinghong has always been the leader of the clan. After he put away his emotions, his eyes became sharp again and fell directly on Xiaopinggan's face. Xiaopinggan was silent for a moment, then stretched out 4 fingers to Xuanhuan Jinghong, and then stretched out 1 finger, which became 5. "You are already a 4th level god, and you can leap forward to fight against a 5th level god." Xuanhuan Jinghong took a slight breath. Xiaopinggan nodded calmly. Before meeting Mr. Jing, he was indeed only a 3rd level god. But after meeting Mr. Jing, because of his success in practicing the ancient God's Immortality Sutra, the potential of his entire body was integrated. The power of the body of the god and the body of the ancient god was inspired by the Book of Immortality of the ancient god, which has allowed him to ignite a ray of divine flame again, so he is now an out-and-out 4th level god. As the head of the Xuanhuan family, Xuanhuan Jinghong is also a 4th level god, but Xuanhuan Jinghong knows that if there is a fight, he may not be the opponent of Xuanhuan Chen in front of him. The Xuanhuan family is facing a difficult problem at the moment, and I'm afraid we need your help. After the shock, Xuanhuan Jinghong perked up slightly and said directly. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1098. I wonder what problems the Xuanhuan family has now, Xiaopinggan asked calmly, not surprised at all. If the Xuanhuan family had not encountered some obstacles this time, Xuanhuan Jinghong would not have thought of summoning such a thorny head to return. The Xuanhuan family is in charge. In the past few years, the Xuanhuan family and the Lingxi family have been mining in the city at the northern and southern foothills of Fudan Mountain. The two parties originally used Fudan Mountain as the boundary and had no disputes. They never thought that 3 years ago, the mysterious copper and divine crystal were discovered underground in Fudan Mountain. Accompanying the big mine, our Xuanhuan family and Lingxi family each sent a large number of manpower to build a city and dig in the mountains. Therefore, the two forces had many conflicts in Fudan Mountain. Now they are at war with each other. A year ago, Lingxi, the leader of the Lingxi family, Wanzhou made an agreement with me that 2 months later, 2 elders from each of my families will meet in Fudan Mountain to fight to determine the ownership of the large mine in Fudan Mountain. Xuanhuan Chan explained to Xiaopinggan. Xiaopinggan understood. It turned out to be this kind of thing. An ancient god bloodline family like the Xuanhuan family has a big business, so expansion is inevitable. If other ancient god bloodline families in Shenting's great domain want to develop, they naturally have the urge to expand. The mysterious realm of the spiritual wilderness is vast and sparsely populated. As long as you have the ability, no one will care about you even if you build 100 cities. Originally, such expansion was based on the principle of first come, first occupied, and there would be no disputes. But the contradiction this time is that the large mine underground in Fudan Mountain was originally on the dividing line between the two sides' territories. No one thought that there was a large mine in the mountain. Now that everyone knows about it, the fight has become an inevitable result. The Lingxi family is also a big family that is not inferior to the Qianlong family, and is even stronger than the Qianlong family in some aspects, so this problem has become a big problem for the Qianlong family. Under normal circumstances, when the ancient god family encounters such disputes, they will not kill randomly like those low-level gangsters. Instead, the elders of both sides will fight to decide the outcome. This is the ancient tradition of the ancient god family. Ancient god family. The highest force of the god family determines the upper limit of the family's development and the boundaries of interests. To put it another way, if the strong man of the first level of the god does not take action to decide the situation, no matter how the fight goes, how many people die, how much territory is seized, until the strong man of the god takes action, these results will all be a joke. Meaningless. I remember that the strongest elder of the Lingxi family seems to be named Lingxi Wei, and he is already a 5th level god, Xiaoping'an said with a slight frown. This information about the Lingxi family is still etched in Huan Longchen's memory. Yes, in addition to Lingxi Wei, another elder of the Lingxi family, Lingxi Wanzheng, also advanced to the 5th level of god a few years ago, so this time the Lingxi family has the confidence to take the initiative to make an appointment with the Qianlong family. Huanlong Jinghong shook his head slightly, his voice a little bitter. The two 5th level divine elders of the Lingxi family are like two big mountains weighing on Huanlong Jinghong's heart. The interests in Fudan Mountain cannot be given up easily, and the family's reputation and interests must be maintained. This after careful consideration, only as the clan leader, sitting in this position, can we understand how much pressure the Lingxi family puts on the Qianlong family. I understand, so this time the Lingxi family will ask their two 5th level divine elders to go to Fudan Mountain. Huanlong Jinghong nodded. Xiaoping'an's face also became serious. He had just advanced to the 4th level of the gods. Although his combat power was comparable to that of the 5th level gods, facing two 5th level gods of the Lingxi family at the same time, it was very difficult for him. That said, it is also a huge challenge. I don't want to inquire about Lingyuan Tang, but I want to ask, apart from me, are there any other elders in Lingyuan Tang who can take action in this matter? Huanlong Jinghong smiled bitterly. There were two elders who were built before Lingyuan Tang. Those two elders had already advanced to the 4th level of deity 100 years ago. Now, of these two elders, one has been there for many years, more than 20 years ago. I can't get in touch, and I don't know if he is dead or alive. Although there is another elder who can be contacted, that elder is practicing secret techniques in a closed life and death in a certain place. It is not at the critical moment of the family's life and death. I dare not alarm. What I just said, these are the top secrets of the Huanlong family, and no one else knows about it except me. If the Lingxi family knows this information, the Lingxi family may force them even more now. Xiaoping'an rubbed his face. Now I also know this secret. Even if I don't believe you, I will still believe in the person who can let you come to our Huanlong family. You and I are both under the command of the Lord of Heaven, so we still have this trust. Huanlong Jinghong looked at Xiaoping'an with deep eyes, his expression looked extremely calm. This old fox, Huanlong Jinghong, is playing the emotional and position cards with himself. Apart from anything else, he is both under the command of the Lord of Heaven. When he sees Huanlong Jinghong in trouble, he can't justify not taking action. Xiaoping'an pondered for a moment. Then what is the position of the Lingxi family in the dispute between the two masters? Which side do they stand on? I don't know about this. Nowadays, the positions of the ancient god blood families in the spiritual desolate secret realm in the battle between the two major masters are very obscure. Although there are families who have revealed their positions, they are very few, and the bigger families are more important here. The more cautious I am, in the eyes of outsiders, most of the ancient god blood descendant families are neutral, just like the Xuanhuan family, and outsiders don't know that I am the ruler of heaven. So, what is the bottom line of the Xuanhuan family in Fudan Mountain? The Lingxi family is currently in the limelight and has the upper hand. It is very difficult for the Qianlong family to fully share the interests of Fudan Mountain with the Lingxi family. The Qianlong family's goal is to obtain at least 40% of the rights and interests on the ground and underground of Fudan Mountain. This should be the best result. The bottom line is that at least 20% of the profits can be preserved, and the Lingxi family cannot squeeze them out of Fudanshan. Okay, in 2 months I will go to Fudan Mountain on behalf of the Qianlong family to compete with the 2 elders of the Lingxi family. At least I can protect the bottom line of the Qianlong family's interests in Fudan Mountain. Xiaopingan nodded. Seeing Xiaopingan's agreement, Xuanlong Jinghong breathed a sigh of relief, and his heart dropped. You can also choose any elder in the family to go with you. No need, there are no elders of the 5th level gods. It will be useless for the others to go. Instead, they will make the Lingxi family laugh. I can go alone. Xuanlong Jinghong immediately said, then what conditions do you need? There are more than 70 million divine crystals that can be used in the secret vault of the Xuanlong family. You can use half of these divine crystals. 70 million points of divine crystals, which can be regarded as the accumulation of the Xuanlong family's great achievements. In the secret realm of Linghuang, this number is definitely not small, but for Xiaopingan, this number of divine crystals is probably equivalent to what he can using 1/9 of the divine power is really not enough. I still have the divine crystal here. I don't need support from my family for the time being, but I have one condition. What conditions? The secret treasury of world beads in Xuanlong's home is now open to me. The world beads I like can be at my disposal. Deal, Xuanlong Jinghong said, and with a move of his hand, he handed Xiaopingan a foot-long golden dragon-shaped key engraved with secret patterns. From today on, you can enter and leave the world pearl of Xuanlong's house at will. Secret treasury, as long as you don't empty out the world pearl secret treasury. Xiaopingan smiled and took the key. Don't worry, there aren't many world beads that I can fancy. After this exchange, both of them felt very satisfied. Xuanlong Jinghong felt that he had found the most powerful helper who could resolve the current crisis of the Xuanlong family, and Xiaopingan also felt that he was not at a loss. In the future, the Xuanlong family would become a stable source of his own world beads. After negotiating these, Long Jinghong personally sent Xiaopingan out of his yard. Now if you want to go to the world pearl secret treasury, you can. The family just collected a batch of world pearls a few days ago, Xuanlong Jinghong said considerately. No, I'll go another day, there's no such urgency. Xiaopingan's head was filled with the light and shadow of the Zhangdaoling world bead at the moment. Now that we have arrived at Xuanlong's house, we can find a place to melt this vital world pearl with peace of mind. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1099. Xuanlong Chan has a courtyard in Tianfang City, called Purple Bamboo Courtyard. This courtyard is in a quiet place to the north of the inner courtyard of Xuanlong's house. There is a purple bamboo forest and a lake around it. Xuanlong Chan's yard is surrounded by the bamboo forest. Surrounded by mountains and lakes, it is a quiet place in the midst of the hustle and bustle. Although he has not returned to Tianfang City for many years, the Qianlong family does not dare to neglect this talented man in the family. The purple bamboo courtyard where Shanlongchen used to live is usually guarded and cleaned. Just wait for him to come back. Xuanlong Ruofeng and Xuanlongzi took Xiaopingan to the door of the yard. Cousin, today, thank you. It was only at this moment that Xuanlongzi plucked up the courage, lowered his head, and whispered to Xiaopingan. Today, Xiaoping'an deposed the elders of the clan hall of the Huanlong family. Huanlongzi knows that no one in the entire Huanlong family will make things difficult for him. During the banquet today, the people around him looked at him a little bit strangely. Some of the disciples, housekeepers, and elders of the Huanlong family who usually have high esteem, now look at themselves, and all of them have begun to look pleasant, and even some are fawning. The same is true for Huanlong Ruofeng. Everyone in the family knew that Huanlong Ruofeng and Huanlong Chan had been friends since childhood. He was one of the few people in the Huanlong family who could talk to Huanlong Chan without recruiting Huanlong. People who are disgusted by cicada. When Xiaoping'an came back today, everyone discovered that it turned out that Huanlong Chan was so fond of the two of them. For the sake of Huanlong Zi, he could depose an elder of the sect hall. So, he must also be interested in Huanlong Ruofeng. Not bad. With the change of Xiaoping'an's identity, Long Ruofeng saw many smiling faces and greetings like never before today. Huanlong Ruofeng also scratched his head, smiled sheepishly, and glanced at Xiaoping'an, as if he was asking for Xiaoping'an's opinion. Elder 11 came to me after the banquet and said that he was going to let me serve as the leader of Jinlin City. The deputy city guard, who manages the mining and trade in the city, wants me to train myself. Cousin, can you look at this? Jinlin City is also the property of the Xuanlong family. It is considered the deputy city of Tianfang City. It is only 800 or 900 kilometers away from Tianfang City. The deputy city guard is equivalent to the deputy mayor, and mining and commerce are the most fertile areas in the city. 1. Do you think you can do a good job as a city guard? Xiaoping'an asked Long Ruofeng. Huanlong Ruofeng was slightly excited and took a deep breath. This deputy city guard actually doesn't have much to do, but he has a lot of power. Moreover, Jinlin City is not far from Huanlong City, and there is no trouble. There are actually people involved in everything. Go ahead, in this position, as long as you don't mess around, there won't be any problems. Disciples at home usually tease me, saying that this kind of position is a fat position with a lot of power and little to do and is close to home. I think I can do it too. Then go, Xiaoping'an said. Well, okay. Seeing Xiaoping'an nod, Long Ruofeng suddenly became happy, his eyes sparkling, looking forward to his bright future. Xiaoping'an turned his attention to Huanlong Zi, then sighed softly, and said something sincerely. You two remember, this world is just a primitive forest, and those monsters with fangs and claws are here. There are people lurking in the forest, and they will get excited when they smell blood. This is true both inside and outside Tianfang City. In this forest, don't be too docile, and don't let yourself expose your wounds easily. Do you understand? This is what I have understood since I was a child. The truth. Huanlong's eyes moved, apparently touched by Xiaoping'an's words. She nodded vigorously. Cousin, I understand. Don't worry, cousin, I will work hard. Huanlong Ruofeng also nodded seriously. Okay, it's getting late, you go back. Okay, cousin, you go to bed early and we'll go back. Huanlong Ruofeng and Huanlongzi left. Huanlongzi walked a certain distance and looked back. He saw Xiaoping'an still standing at the door looking at them. He waved and then turned his head. In a moment, the two of them disappearing behind the bamboo forest on the stone path. After the two left, Xiaoping'an turned around, opened the door behind him, entered the purple bamboo courtyard, activated the magic circle in the purple bamboo courtyard, and followed the habit of the dragon cicada, summoning a group of immortal legions wearing armor. Soldiers were stationed throughout the courtyard. The purple bamboo courtyard covers an area of several acres. It is luxurious and exquisite, with all pavilions and pavilions. There is also a training tower in the courtyard. Due to the habit of carrying dragons and cicadas, there was not a single servant in this courtyard when Xiaoping'an arrived, and it seemed a bit deserted. The god of fortune boy had already walked around here and found that there was no problem. Xiaopingan went directly to the secret room of the training tower, took out his formation plate and added insurance to the secret room, and then summoned Xuanhuan to guard him. Only then did Pingan take out the Zhangdaoling world bead, and then light a precious 10,000-year ancient incense. The entire secret cultivation room suddenly fell silent amidst the misty light blue aroma of ancient incense. The soothing incense can calm the mind and calm the mind, allowing people to have clear consciousness, wisdom, clear energy, blood, and divine power. It can also prevent the interference of some mysterious magic obstacles and avoid going crazy. To a certain extent, this soothing incense can also improve the summoner's ability to fuse the world beads. Success rate. Xiaopingan sat cross-legged with his eyes closed like a hill, relaxed and solemn. In the atmosphere of Anchengxiang, wonderful changes were taking place in the depths of Xiaopingan's consciousness. All the information he knew about Zhang Daoling's life came from his memory. The deepest parts emerge little by little and are connected to form a three-dimensional and complete memory chain. In order to successfully integrate this world bead, Xiaopingan is confirming and closing every link in this memory chain. Under normal circumstances, Xiaopingan would not be so cautious when fusing the world bead, and there was no need to light the 10,000 years ancient incense, but the world bead in his hand was an exception, and Xiaopingan had to treat it with caution. As the founder of Chinese Taoism, Zhang Daoling's life was full of legends. Many of these legends cannot be interpreted purely from the perspective of historical research and academic research. Legend has it that after Zhang Daoling was Zhang Liang, his mother fell in love with Kuixing and gave birth to him. Zhang Daoling was gifted since he was a child. He already knew the Tao Te Ching at the age of 7. When he became a Tai student, he knew everything about astronomy, geography, and the 5 classics. But these are not the most legendary. The most legendary saying spread among the people is that Zhang Daoling was personally passed down by Tai's Hang Lejun and was awarded the 24th rank of Zhenji League, Taiping Dong Jijing and San Wu. Secret magic treasures such as the evil-slaying male and female sword and the Yangping's Hijigong seal allow Zhang Daoling to kill demons and protect the world. In his previous life, in order to explore the mystery of this heavenly master and to understand the root and origin of Chinese civilization, Xiaopingan spent a lot of time traveling across China to trace the legendary history related to Zhang Daoling. The female sword of the 3-5 evils killing male and female sword is kept in the Jigui well of Hemming Mountain, and the male sword of the 3-5 evil swords and the Yangping's Hijigong seal and the Zhenji League Wei 24th grade Dharma ribbon were brought to the treasure for historical reasons. Island. For this reason, Xiaopingan even went to Treasure Island, just to see the treasures left by the heavenly master. Because the 5 pecks of rice religion was first born in Shu, and Zhang Daoling also preached and rose to prominence in Shu, Xiaopingan once followed the footsteps of this heavenly master and went deep into Shu. He found Zhang Daoling's temple more than 1,800 years ago in Yuntai Mountain, Kangxi County, Shu. Yuntai Temple, the ancestral court of the heavenly master, was the place where people studied Taoism, made alchemy, cast spells, and ascended the truth in Shu. In the Yuntai Temple, I worked with several Taoist priests from the Tianqi lineage for nearly half a year, and gained a lot. There are also various mysterious experiences that are difficult to explain to outsiders. For example, I saw the scene of Nantianmen in the octagonal well of Yuntai Temple, and went deep into the secret underground palace Dragon Cave in Yuntai Temple that connects to the underground world. There is also a mysterious underground palace in the underground palace Dragon Cave. A strange experience. It was Xiaopingan's bizarre experience in Yuntaiguan, Kangxi County, Sichuan province that finally made him become an avid archaeological explorer. Xiaopingping sat quietly and calmly for more than 2 hours. It was not until Xiaopingping felt that his whole body was full of wisdom and he had completed the preparations for fusion that a drop of blood merged into the world bead on his fingertips, and then in the blink of an eye, Xiaopingan was surrounded by a huge cocoon of light, the light cocoon surrounding Xiaopinggan also looked very strange. In black and white, it was the shape of a mysterious Tai Chi bagua, and it was slowly rotating. With Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1100. The door of the Zizuyuan cultivation tower was tightly closed after Xiaopinggan entered. He waited until the next morning, when bright and warm sunshine shone in the courtyard, and several birds were chirping and jumping around on the persimmon trees in the courtyard. The door of the training tower finally opened with a slight creaking sound. Xiaopinggan, wearing a black robe, slowly walked out of the tower, looked at the sun in the sky, and let out a long breath. It's a new day again. Xiaopinggan smiled slightly, walked down the steps of the training tower, and stopped under the persimmon tree. He raised his head and admired the birds jumping around on the tree, letting the warm and bright spots of the sun shine. After passing through the shadow of the trees and falling on his face and body, his mood gradually changed from the scene of merging the world beads. In that world bead, Xiaopinggan interprets the life of the legendary ancestral master starting from the age of 7. He writes books and preaches, leaving behind Lao Zi Xiang'erzu and Zhenjiashi's Dharma lineage, collecting 8 ghosts and gods, and subduing 6 gods. The Demon King of Heaven gathered all the gods of the 3 realms under the Yellow Emperor's altar in Qingcheng Mountain, and formed an alliance with the 5 mountains and 4 dams to establish the 24 rules, feuding Ghost Prison. 30 will be the true altar, 60 will be the true peace, 72 blessed places will be placed, people will be placed in the bright sun, ghosts will be placed in the shadows, and sacrificial wine will be set up for male officials and female officials to praise Xuanhuan. He also led his disciples to travel around the country, slaying demons and evildoers, seizing salt ponds, making meritorious deeds, and benefiting the common people. At this point, Taoism officially had a religious organization. Xiaopinggan continued to perform the performance until Zhang Daoling was 123 years old. He gave yudan, seals, swords, and talismans to his son Zhonghong in the Yuntai temple. He left a sentence and then ascended to the throne with his wife Yang. I met the Supreme Emperor personally and taught him the Tao. This article is the general leader of the 3-5 dynasties, and it is a key point. The position that has been given to me by one son from generation to generation cannot be passed on to anyone other than the descendants of my section. The life experience of this ancestral heavenly master can be said to be the secret among secrets, the wonder among wonders, the benefits for the present time, and the achievements for the future. It cannot be explained clearly in a few words. This world bead is a perfect fusion. At the same time, this Tianqi world bead also creates a record since Xiaopinggan's fusion of the world bead. A single fusion of a world bead greatly increases the upper limit of Xiaopinggan's secret mandala's divine power. 3,600 points turned into 166,879 points. After the integration of this world bead, there have been great changes in the secret mandala. Outside Lingxiao City, there is an extra trigram-shaped Yuntai mountain, and there is an extra Yuntai temple on the mountain. And in Lingxiao City, there is also an extra mysterious majesty. In the Tianqi Hall, the mages summoned by the Tianqi Hall all ride on black tigers, have flat crowns on their heads, wear bagua clothes, square skirts, red shoes on their feet, wear evil-killing male and female swords, and carry the Lingxiao Dugong seal. He has mastered various secret magic talismans, which are strange and unpredictable, and his combat power is extremely powerful. At this moment, the Tianqi Hall, like the Saint Master Hall, is already busy. A group of mages summoned from the Tianqi Hall have begun to recruit and train the younger generation of disciples among the smart farmers, craftsmen, and scholars in Lingxiao City. Previously, the total population of Lingxiao City was more than 4 million, but when Xiaopinggan was on his way back to Tianfang City by flying boat, after careful consideration, Xiaopinggan directly consumed 400 million points of divine power to increase the population of Lingxiao City to more than 1 million per day. It is increasing, and now it has increased by 40 million, completely solving the population problem of Lingxiao City once and for all. A population of 40 to 50 million, if placed on WA star, would already be the population size of a medium-sized country. When these people were placed in Lingxiao City, they had occupied more than 2 million square kilometers of mountainous land around Lingxiao City, and began to build other cities. Xiaoping'an's kingdom of God had already revealed its majesty. With such a population base, given time, all the arms in Lingxiao City can be obtained from the natural reproduction of the population. There is no need for Xiaoping'an to expend divine power to summon those barracks, Saint Master Hall, Tianqi Hall, government temples, and other institutions. Naturally, talents will be cultivated for him. The only thing Xiaoping'an has to do is to improve the education and various knowledge and skill systems in the mandala. These things must be completed by integrating various world beads. The current single boundary bead is very limited for Xiaoping'an's strength improvement, but for the mandala and the kingdom of God, it may be of extraordinary significance, enough to affect the development of countless people and the entire mandala and the kingdom of God. As the population base continues to expand, if every couple in Lingxiao City is conservatively estimated to have more than 5 children, then as long as Lingxiao City is given a sufficiently stable living environment and development space, over time, eventually, Lingxiao City will rely on its huge population advantage to use the uterus war and population to complete the crushing and complete reshuffling of other snobbery in the kingdom of God. What Lingxiao City lacks most now is enough stable development time. Xiaoping'an has turned time into Lingxiao City's best friend and blessing. In the past 2 years, Han Xian has led his troops out and stirred up troubles outside, buying Lingxiao City prime time for development, so that Lingxiao City has not been disturbed by the outside world and can grow with peace of mind. Xiaoping'an does not know how long this situation can last, but, one more day is also good. After leisurely basking in the sun for a while, Xiaoping'an left Zizuyuan and walked slowly directly towards the Giwan Hall where the secret treasury of the inner courtyard of the Qianlong family was located. Along the way, the family members, disciples, and servants of the Qianlong family saw him. All gave way, stood by the road, saluted, and watched him leave. It didn't take long for Xiaoping'an to arrive at the Giwan Hall. The hall was surrounded by bare squares. The square was guarded by summoned beasts and soldiers. It was heavily guarded. It was easy for anyone to come here. The people guarding the main hall discovered that Xiaoping'an had an unimpeded journey, crossed the square directly, and arrived at the entrance of the main hall. The entire hall is also guarded by formations. There is only one entrance and exit, and the entrance and exit of the hall are also guarded. I've met Elder Cicada. The person in charge of guarding this hall is also a demigod elder from the Xuanlong family named Xuanlongshi. This demigod elder has a simple and dull face. Everyone in the entire Xuanlong family knows that this elder is the most loyal. Duty, all the elders went to greet Xiaoping'an yesterday, but this elder did not go and still stayed in the hall. However, he also knew that Xiaoping'an had become an elder, so he was very polite to Xiaoping'an. Xiaoping'an was somewhat polite to such an honest man who was dedicated to his duties. Elder Shi, I want to go to the World Pearl Secret Treasury to have a look. I received a notice from the clan leader yesterday that Elder Cicada can enter and exit the Xuanlong family's secret treasury of World Pearls at will from now on, but I still ask Elder Cicada to show me the key to the secret treasury of World Pearls, Elder Shi said firmly. Xiaoping'an took out the key and handed it over. Elder Shi checked it carefully before handing it over. The key is correct. Elder Cicada, please follow me. Xiaoping'an followed him into the main hall. The main hall was empty and there was no place to hide anything. The Elder Shi inserted a token he carried with him into the dragon's mouth of a leaping dragon pillar in the main hall. During the process, the floor of the hall slowly slid open, revealing an entrance to the underground. Elder Shi took Xiaoping'an into the underground through that entrance. After about 100 meters underground, he walked out of the entrance and saw a heavy metal gate full of runes. Elder Shi asked Xiaopinggan to insert his key into the keyhole on the left side of the metal door. He took out a key and inserted it into the keyhole on the right. The two of them twisted the key together, and the metal door slowly opened. Everything in front of him reminded Xiaopinggan of the scene when he entered the Great Yan Kingdom's secret vault on WA Star. The two were really similar. The secret vault has been opened. Elder Cicada, please come in. Elder Shi did not enter the secret vault, but waited outside the secret vault. Only Xiaopinggan entered the secret vault of the World Pearl. The world beads and the corresponding spiritual crystals in this secret library are like the books in the library. They are displayed in rows and rows in the cabinet. They shine brightly and make people see them at a glance. According to the properties of the world beads, the degree of rarity is different, and the number of different types of boundary beads is also different. For example, the most common foundation building boundary beads, there are thousands of them displayed here. There are also some precious world beads, but there are either very few or none here, because the world beads here are actually consumed by the flow. Many precious world beads may have been lost to the family members not long after entering here. The clan chiefs, elders, and others picked them away. When Xiaopinggan's cultivation is as good as it is now, many world beads have been fused, so it is really not an easy task to find the world beads that he has not fused. However, fortunately, this secret vault is big enough and there are enough world beads in it. Xiaopinggan walked around here for a while, and soon found two divine power world beads that he had not fused with. One was dragon slaying technique and the other was conservation of deficiency. When Xiaopinggan finished transferring the secret vault, he also discovered a world bead that I have never fused with. There are 3 words Pan Shengji written on the small seal in the world bead. As soon as he saw this boundary bead, Xiaopinggan's eyes lit up, a smile appeared on his face, and he immediately put the boundary bead away. This Pan Shengji was the author of China's first agricultural book, Pan Sheng. The book was written in the late Western Han Dynasty. The book systematically summarized the agricultural production experience and operating techniques in the Yellow River Basin of China at that time. It is a symbol of farming civilization. This book also became the earliest agricultural book in the world. With the rapid increase in the population of Lingxiao City, agricultural production has become more and more important. This world pearl is exactly what Lingxiao City lacks now. If it can be integrated by itself, it will be of great help to Lingxiao City. After putting away the 3 world beads, Xiaopinggan left the world bead secret warehouse. Elder Shi, when will the new world beads from the world bead secret store be delivered? Xiaopinggan asked when he came outside the secret storehouse. On the 17th of every month, the Xuanhuan family collects and purchases world beads from various places and sends them here to the warehouse. The clan leader has already told us that from this month on, every time a new world pearl is put into the warehouse, Elder Cicada will be the first. Choose first, Elder Shi replied respectfully. Okay, then I'll come back on the 18th. Xiaopinggan nodded. There are still 11 days left until the 18th. This means that in a few days, he can come here to choose again.